How are you?
I'm fine.
Good.
Are you fine?
I am. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Seti Muga,
Yes.
how you doing?
Fine.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Eric.
Good to
Morning,
see you.
CT.
Ndu.
Yeah.
How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Sauti imewekwa mafuta na gia.
Kabisa. Imewekwa freno.
Imeweka friend no. With power form.
Yes, totally. It's good to see you guys. Let's get straight into the show. Ndu, of course, you know where we start.
Yep.
COVID watch globally.
Well, let's look at where we are now. Things definitely changed yesterday when we saw some of the harrowing pictures that we saw coming out of Italy. But let's look at world numbers for now and see that currently we are at 785,777 coronavirus cases, 37,815 deaths, and 165,607 having recovered. Now, if we look at specific countries, the USA now adding an unprecedented 21,000 cases yesterday. So we got to 409 new cases yesterday, which took us to 164,253 with deaths at 33,165. In Italy, we've gone to 101,739 cases with 11,591 deaths. Spain has risen to 87,956, now 6,000 more than China, with 7,717 deaths. Again, the numbers remaining constant in China with 81,518 deaths, 79 new cases in China that have been imported.
All imported cases.
Yes. And
Amazing,
having to see them backtrack on some of the orders that Ping now gave earlier in the week, where he said, public transport theaters to open, etc. Having to call back that and say, actually, no, we're not going to open.
Yeah,
we're going to close now. But interestingly enough, still cases, deaths remaining at 3,000.
When was the first case brought to the attention of the world in China?
It was brought to the attention of the world in January, but it actually happened in December.
Okay. So we're talking 3 months.
Yeah.
Yes.
Within 3 months, it has reversed.
It has.
China was being blamed for spreading the virus, and anything negative about China took center stage. We now have a situation where the complete opposite has happened.
Happened.
China is unclosing its doors and saying, we don't really want people to come into the country.
This is it.
Because they're bringing the virus.
Yeah, because we had gotten to a point where last week, 2 days consecutively, no new cases had been found. And they were still doing their due diligence in terms of entrance into the country.
Yeah.
And then they started to see 1, 2, 3 cases. And this is when they had said, all right, the tube metro is going to open again. Theaters would open, restaurants and such would open. And then they saw the cases begin to spike. And then he said, okay, no, we're going to go back
let's
to where we were.
it.
Contain it. Interestingly, though, they've now, the world cases, the US now has double the cases of China at 164. But interestingly enough, Italy and Spain have
combined.
Italy and Spain have combined quadruple the deaths in China.
My goodness.
So it's...
This is where I want us to pause. There's something that, in my mind, is still not clear.
Yeah.
See, there is the issue of cases that are reported, because this is what we're dealing with, reported.
Yeah.
Okay? One. Then there's issue of the cases that we hear in Spain, in Italy, in America. Is there a plausible, logical explanation for what we are seeing? There was an explanation given for what we saw in China. There was an explanation given to what happened in Japan, in Korea. Is there an explanation? Because the numbers are increasing and we are focusing on the numbers, but there's an underlying cause. What is it? We've been told it was they didn't act fast enough.
Yeah.
We've got that. Okay? Britain, we're told, also didn't act fast enough. We've got that. Containment wasn't done at the appropriate time. Mitigation is now running behind the virus.
Yeah.
We understand that.
Yeah.
But why? There is a why that has not been responded to.
What other why would there be?
The why would be the strain of virus. This is what I'm thinking about.
You think this is a different strain?
No, that has already been proved that they're different. That is not even in question. It's been proven. But what is it about this particular strain that you're seeing in Italy and Spain? What is it? And what is it about this strain that you're seeing in America? What is it? Because these ones are virulent. A virus is a live organism, and it appears that the process we are seeing is its process of staying alive so that it can propagate itself. That's what it's doing. It's actually just doing its best to stay alive. But what is it about it that is making it have this disastrous effect? What is it? I'm asking that question because you then have to ask, when was the first case indicated? When did we first know the first case on this continent? And if you look at it, it wasn't really that far behind the West.
Yeah.
But by now, we should have given our healthcare systems that we are told are generally dilapidated, generally third world.
All historic indicators pointing that Africa should have been ravaged by now if we see the same numbers that we're seeing in the West.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think
Especially because you haven't closed down,
especially because we have delayed everything that everybody else in the West has done.
And we have dilapidated health systems, ways of, just the indicators that they normally use, right? For everything else as to why things are so terrible. If you want to look at the reasons of the levels of poverty on the continent, if you want to look at bad governance, if you want to look at everything else, all indicators should point to Africa really having by now.
Yes, we should have had something like around even half of our population hang. Meaning, if you're to go by those progressions, it should have not quadrupled. A multiple of that quadruple should have actually occurred on the continent. And that's why I'm raising this question. Remember, we asked this question at the very beginning. What is it about this particular virus, apart from it being new? What is it that we're not being told? Because clearly, it isn't happening. Now, there are those who are saying, well, you haven't tested. We agree. We are not testing as much as the West.
Yeah, but
then,
people are not dropping that.
Precisely, they're not.
Or feeling even sick enough to present themselves to medical
or complaining.
Or complaining that I'm feeling a type of way, I'm feeling down. Nobody really is.
Touch wood. Maybe it's just speaking too early. Maybe that's the time.
I'm raising it. I'm raising it now because there needs to be a sane way of looking at this thing. I do not favor this panic approach that we seem to have been pushed into with regards to the coronavirus. There should be concern, there should be an alert, but there should be not panic. Because once there's panic, logic goes out of the window. Things that could be reasonably put in place and done.
Is the West panicking?
Oh, yes, they're panicking.
So is that the reason why you think partly that is contributing to what we are seeing?
It is.
Rising number of cases, rising deaths.
I am saying it isn't clear what is contributing to what. There's a lot happening, and where there's panic, there's even greater obfuscation. You're not even sure what it is that you should be looking at, right? Boris Johnson began on a trajectory of saying, okay, look, let's get to a critical mass of this, where this will happen. Theoretically speaking, he made sense. And once it gets to a certain peak, we should see this particular pandemic petering out, okay?
Yep.
Somewhere along the line, he backslid. Okay, and he went the way of containment, the way everybody else was going.
Yeah,
it's not helping. But if you read in detail what's happening in the UK, there are those who are telling you, but these numbers are less than those who are actually killed by the influenza every year. And then also, when someone dies and has those symptoms,
within how long?
Within this period that they've been talking about,
the influenza season.
Influenza season, people die without fail. They die every year. They die every year. In these places where you have this cold, they die. And that's why these influenza shots, flu shots as they call them, that they keep giving people. And that's why the pharmaceutical industry every year comes up with new improved vaccines, because they also know the virus mutates.
Yeah.
Okay? And they're saying, but people die anyway. But then there's a chink to this one as well. The people who supposedly died of influenza, do we have records of them having an autopsy being done to determine what actually killed them?
What actually killed them?
And then there's also something else. People who have pre-existing conditions are more likely to die, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what will kill you? Is it the virus or your pre-existing condition? All I'm saying is, medical science is doing what it can, and we applaud them. But there are questions that keep lingering, because even if you look at the scientific process that people follow to arrive at answers, questions still linger. That's all I'm saying. That there's a lot that doesn't seem to make sense.
Because if you want to look at how fast this thing, because what we're seeing in Italy, for example, are happenings that took place over 30 days.
Yes.
We're looking at February to March. 1 month. They went from
It's cataclysmic.
They went from 2 cases of 2 Chinese tourists to yesterday 11,591 deaths in 30 days.
In a very short time.
And every day from Thursday last week there were 595 cases. On Saturday, deaths, okay? On Saturday, 600, 700. Yesterday there were 859 deaths. It doesn't
In a day.
In a day. In a month, all of this has gone awry.
And
so
what,
then
and
you
what,
need
yes.
to ask, I would go with those questions. What on earth is going on? It has to be asked.
But also of significance, even as we look at our government, we have to juxtapose our government's effort to that of the other governments around the world.
Yeah.
In all honesty, no one seems to know what to do.
This is
in
one
all
that has caught
honesty,
everyone flat-footed.
No one seems to know what to do. It doesn't matter how developed they are.
You can't throw money at this one.
This one, they
Because,
don't know.
Yeah.
They honestly do not know. They have no clue. None whatsoever. They're trying. It's on this hit and miss. We call it Bahati Nasibu. Sincerely. Whether it is the UK, whether it is Germany, whether
The
it's
US with
Switzerland.
their 2 trillion.
It doesn't matter. The people who seem to have an idea seem to be Russia.
No
And you have to
thing.
ask her, is it a reporting issue? Or is
It's
what
Russia
is
and
it?
Sierra Leone.
Russia is
know
now
what's going
helping Italy.
Sending doctors and all.
Yes, they are.
Germany is importing Italian patients.
Germany is doing the same.
Yes, they are. No one is talking about the smaller European countries, the new ones like Croatia and what have you.
Yeah.
They are running around chasing their tails. So if you picture them, you could even think our government is even better organized.
The Czech Republic has conquered it.
So they say.
So they say. They don't have those many cases.
Yes.
No,
People
actually,
seeking
yeah.
treatment.
Yeah, Czech Republic has 3,000 cases and no new cases in the last 2 weeks. Total deaths are 146. And total recovered are 16. Active cases are 3,000 and 2,000 and something. So I mean, now you want to look in terms of other countries, not so bad.
How many deaths so far? Have we hit 50,000?
Where?
Globally.
Yes.
Deaths globally?
Global deaths.
Yeah.
Are we at 100? Are we at 200?
Global deaths
Yes.
are 37. We've not hit 50,000, no.
Precisely.
Global deaths are
Not infections.
37,815.
Yes.
Yeah.
HNI flu. How many people did it kill? 500,000.
HIV killed 36 million.
Yes.
So,
Figures vary. They say 32, 36.
Which flu killed 500,000? The
But-
H1N1.
Yes. No, half.
500,000.
Half. Killed.
And this is just a decade ago, right?
This isn't long ago. You're not even sure. At that point in time, when you heard bird flu, you're thinking, should I look at the birds?
right.
Yeah.
Should I
should
kill all
I-
my
should I?
chicken? Yes.
And it didn't spread all over the
No,
world.
it didn't. It didn't.
It wasn't like this.
It didn't.
So there's a lot more. This thing is devastating more of our psyche and our economies than our
Actually, this
livelihood.
thing is hitting the economy more than anything else.
It's 20 minutes after 6 o'clock. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. We now take a look at the headlines. And you remember, you can download the Standard e-paper app from Google Play Store and Apple App Store. Just one subscription fee. You get to access the Standard from wherever you are. Good morning.
"24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
It's mostly cloudy. It's mostly cloudy in Nairobi at 17 degrees this morning. Highs of 26 and lows of 16 with showers expected in the afternoon. In Nyeri at 16 degrees, it's mostly cloudy. Thunderstorms expected later with highs of 24 and lows of 15. Partly cloudy in Nakuru this morning at 14 degrees. Showers expected in the afternoon, then with highs of 27 and lows of 14. In Eldoret at 13, it's likely to be clear skies for most parts of the day with highs of 24 and lows of 13. Kisumu at 18 degrees is mostly cloudy and it'll be that way through the day, then with highs of 30 and lows of 18. It's 28 degrees in Malindi and partly cloudy, likely to be this way through the day with highs of 33 and lows of 27. It's 27 degrees in Mombasa and partly cloudy. Rain expected in the afternoon, then with highs of 33 and lows of 27. Kampala at 21 degrees is going to be partly cloudy today. Rain expected in the afternoon, then with highs of 28 and lows of 21. Taking a peek into Dar es Salaam at 26 degrees. It's thunderstorms expected for most parts of the day with highs of 32 and lows of 26. Johannesburg is at 16 degrees this morning and partly cloudy. See what it looks like through the day. Highs of 22 and lows of 14. Looking into Lagos at 27 degrees, partly cloudy. Highs of 34 and lows of 26. In Paris this morning, it's 4 degrees and clear skies through the day. Highs of 12 and lows of 1. In New York, it's 7 degrees and cloudy conditions through the day. Rain expected later with highs of 10 and lows of 6. And finally, we take a look into London this morning, where it's partly cloudy right now. Clear later at 4 degrees with highs of 11 and lows of 1.
Chilled Spice. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
24 minutes after 6 o'clock. This is the situation, Kenya's biggest conversation. So, what do you have in the headlines? What do you have, City?
Well, what I have in the headlines is that tough call for new Safaricom CEO. It is true. He takes office tomorrow, and he comes in at a time when the country is facing its worst ever health situation. This is actually not true. It's not the worst. We've had serious health situations. What is worse about our situation is what we project and what we anticipate. But as for economic, it is true. We've never had an economic situation such as the one that we're facing right now. And he comes in there. And given that he is going to lead the most profitable company in East and Central Africa, every challenge that comes with that particular job is going to fall squarely on his lap.
Yep.
Yes.
Straight up.
Straight up.
No time to...
This one is not even frying pan into the fire. This one is you bypass the frying pan fire.
Straight.
There's no settling in.
No.
Hit the road
Hit
running.
the road running, as they would say.
So this is covered in the Financial Standard for today. Peter Ndegwa, the tough call that he has. So, of course, it's getting how many pages of coverage? A full 2 pages of coverage. In 2010, the key numbers for Safaricom, 83.9 billion shillings of revenue. As if you compare that to last year, 240 billion shillings in revenue. Just 10 years from 83 to 240. That's 3 times, right? Net profit, 15 billion shillings in 2010, 63 billion shillings in 2019. Free cash flow, 6 billion shillings in 2010, and in 2019, Safaricom had cash 63B. Subscribers, 16 million, that rose to 31 million in 10 years. So his predecessors had done quite some work. So, Mr. Ndegwa, you have a lot of work.
You know, people are going to be looking in the next 6 months whether those numbers have increased, right? And that's going to be the measure of the man.
And I think they'll be telling him, you know, people are at home.
Yeah.
The only thing that we're doing is using their phones and data. So really?
Safaricom is working from home.
Yes.
Yes, but also, remember there's going to be tough calls on Safaricom to share all these millions and billions they keep making towards corporate social responsibility.
Absolutely.
Yes, I mean, they have a fund for it, I am aware, but the call is going to be even greater. Remember, water measures, when they come into play, everything that you consider normal literally goes out of the window.
Completely.
And new measures have to come in.
Have to come in place.
Yes.
Okay, front page of the Daily Nation. Coronavirus exposes crisis in Kenya's ICUs. It's a dire situation. The best scenario for the country is to contain the spread of COVID-19 because 518 intensive care bed units, only 70 are available for use. And even though it is only patients with serious complications who will be referred to these units, the situation paints a grim picture of a sorry state of affairs. So there's 518 total of ICU beds in the country. Only 70 are available, obviously, because the others are being used. And so now the question is asked, what then would happen when somebody needed an ICU bed? Now, the medics are warning of a health crisis because of the limits. The meticulous 5-minute process of a nurse donning a set of personal protective gear introduces us to the negative pressure isolation room at the Aga Khan University's Hospital Intensive Care Unit. Now, she goes through the basics of what she needs to do, but however shedding light that this is just one center where they have a few, and if you're going to look around the country, it's clear that there is not enough. Unlike a standard ICU room which costs anywhere between 7 shillings and 8 million 7 and 8 million shillings, patients with contagious airborne diseases such as tuberculosis, measles, chickenpox, etc., and corona are required to be isolated in negative pressure rooms to prevent cross-contamination. And basically what we are being told is that there just are not enough. 87% of them are currently in use, raising concerns over the country's preparedness. The strained ICU beds in the country that health workers are warning that some patients who may end up developing critical versions of COVID-19 may not be able to access an ICU.
This is it's no joke.
Nope. Now, before the global crisis even began, Kenya's health system was already limping with few doctors and nurses and even fewer hospital beds per capita. So there was already a problem before the problem came. And this is now what we're going to have to deal with. Right.
The underbelly is being exposed, but we are not talking about things that have come into being because of the coronavirus. They have been in existence.
There.
Yes, and also, this very show, we've brought up these issues and mentioned them on many, many, many occasions. Right now, the consequences of the neglect that we've spoken of is now being brought to bear on us because we're realizing that the lack of preparedness was not because we lacked the ability or the means to have been prepared by simply providing what was considered normal. It wasn't done. And so here we are. And yet, again, this is a situation that provides an opportunity that is rare. An opportunity that the government must grasp. And this one is a nettle. This one, they're going to have to grasp this particular nettle because you don't grasp without it pricking you. You have to grasp it. And why I'm saying grasping it, these dire situations enable you to take action that ordinarily you wouldn't be able to take. They'd raise noise, but because of the things we need to do, it will be more acceptable. People will be willing to accept it. It's an opportunity the government must not miss. Those changes that we've been talking about and wanting to make, this is the time to make them.
They'll tell us they'll have no money.
We understand we haven't had money.
It's just about planning and being focused and being committed.
It is.
It's about commitment.
There is money somewhere. There's always money. It's a question of prioritizing and understanding. You see, when we talked about behavior change intervention in the citizenry, it is across board. Decision makers have to change the way they do things. Completely overhaul it. We can't throw words at this. This one, you actually have to do something. We can't go about talking about it and saying we are prepared. We've got it under control. We don't. We saw how the world's most powerful nation had their leader saying they had this thing under control until it was smacking him in the face.
3 days later.
Yes, and it was clearly not in control. It had a mind of its own and it was doing its own thing. We don't need to get there.
If you look at these numbers, they are scary. From the Kenya Healthcare Federation and the Critical Care Society, there are some counties, entire counties, that have 0 ICU bed.
Yes.
0.
Yes.
Kilifi County, 0 bed. Lamu County, 0. Taita Taveta, 0. Tana River County, 0. Garissa has 6 beds. Wajir, Mandera, Marsabit, Isiolo, 0 beds. Tharaka Nithi, 0 beds. Kitui, 0 ICU capacity. Machakos has 5 and they are full. Nyandarua, Laikipia, 0. Muranga, 0. You know, big counties. Turkana, 0. Vihiga, Bungoma, 0. Bomet, Kajiado, Busia, Siaya, Homa Bay, Migori, Nyamira, 0.
Yes.
An entire county.
Not
has-
one.
Yes. And these are not new districts. These are old districts. These are districts that have big hospitals. Used to have district hospitals. And they did not have an ICU bed even then, up to now. How many years of independence again?
15.
7.
Even an HDU, essentially a facility that would look after the critically ill.
Yeah.
You see, they understood for the longest time that you transferred them to the provincial hospital. Okay? So even with the county being brought to bear, where the former district hospitals needed to have upgraded to have what the provincial hospital, because the provincial hospital now becomes a referral
It was
hospital.
the whole
Yeah.
referral
Yes,
for the area.
yes, exactly. But the referral hospitals, even Kenyatta,
But if you think about now the referral hospitals, for instance, Mombasa, the Mombasa County Hospital has 12 beds, right? That was the provincial headquarters of the coast.
yes, the whole coast,
The whole coast. Kilifi, serving Kilifi, Lamu,
Tana.
Tana River,
Tana River,
Taita.
Taita Taveta, which everybody else had no bed, so only,
and Kwale, of course.
and Kwale. All of them depending on
That number of beds.
12.
Does it make sense to you?
It's interesting also when we look at these numbers, for example, because it's to say that if something would happen and, you know, if people get into need to have critical care and they require an ICU for a bed, in Mombasa County, there are 12 beds and 12 of them are in use.
Yep.
Mombasa Hospital, 6 beds and 6 of them are in use. Pandia, 6 beds, 6 of them are in use. Aga Khan, Mombasa, 4 beds, 4 beds are in use. Premier, 3 beds, 3 beds are in use. Jocham, again in Mombasa, 5 beds, and 5 beds are in use. So there's nothing available at the moment. If
Yep.
we're just looking
We're
at
full.
Mombasa, it's
The
full
entire coast, there's no bed available.
Because here we are again assuming that okay, it's corona and nothing else is going on. People are
The
still suffering
entire
from other
coast.
ailments, right? The entire
Kilifi
coast,
has
all
already
the beds.
already been declared a hotspot. All right. So our capacity to take those people who need critical care is 0, because we have no bed anywhere. Not in Kilifi,
And this is the fact.
not in Mombasa, not in Tana River, not in Lamu, not in Kwale.
Kwale.
You have to transfer them to KNH.
And if you want to look at KNH, just as an example, let's come to Nairobi. All right. And
KNH. 55 beds. 55 beds in
and
use.
55 beds are in use. So that again, we're at what?
0.
0. Okay. Actually,
Nairobi
the only where
Hospital
we do have some space is at
is
Kenyatta University, where there are 44 beds and 6 are in use.
And because Kenyatta is not yet fully operational.
Fully operational. Interestingly enough, by the way, everywhere else where there are beds available are all in use. All in Nairobi. All. So in
even
Nairobi,
the HDU facilities you'll find are chock-a-blocked.
Yep.
so in Nairobi right now, in a hospital that is not fully fledged at this point, there are only 38 beds available.
Again, let me reiterate. This provides a very unique window of opportunity for the government to actually take steps that hitherto may have been shrouded with politics and all manner of innuendo that don't really bring about progress. They can bring about change now.
Now.
Under these circumstances that we are in, they can. They can. And it's not just in the health sector.
The light is actually going to us as citizens.
Yes.
Because the politicians may go back to doing what they have
They
been
will.
doing.
They will.
But
Most
for us,
assuredly.
if we focus on this and said, all right, what are we talking about BBI? Scrap
Hold
everything else. Number 1, healthcare.
Let's focus on
Because
that
what
one.
this does, it allows you to see what is really going on. Somebody
Yeah.
may come and be able to blur your vision,
Gloss it, yes.
gloss over with some, speech nuance all over the place, and you don't really know what's going on. This presents opportunity for to know what's going on across board, nitty gritty.
When something gives you, when a situation provides you the opportunity to look at something, let's go on to the hour, then we can.
Let's do traffic. 24 minutes to 7 o'clock. This is a situation on Kenya's biggest conversation.
It's a very quiet morning. People are just waking up out of the curfew now and getting onto the streets, but nothing major going on. Moving along from Namanga Road down towards Kitengela into Mombasa Road, no problems whatsoever. Taking a look at the Super Thika Highway, and no, not much going on there. Trying to get into the CBD, it won't take you too long. Remembering that trying to get into a public service vehicle this morning requires that you are less than the normal numbers. Make sure that your sanitizers are being used today. So we'll have a look at Jogo Road. Nothing much going on there. The ferries in Mombasa operating under the new guidelines. Let's see how that goes today. But for now, nothing major to report at this time. If it does come out, do let us know. SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Let's see what you see. Keep it moving this morning.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
At 22 minutes to 7 o'clock, this is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. You can download the standard e-paper app from Google Play Store and Apple App Store. Just one subscription fee. You get to access the standard from wherever you are across the globe. The standard headline this morning, pandemic hits home. It's red alert. Kenya enters dangerous phase of coronavirus pandemic with community transmission of disease, meaning the virus is no longer coming from outside. It's instead being locally brewed. 50,000 is what we are at right now. The projections from the experts at the Ministry of Health were that 1,000 cases within the next 10 days. We could get to 1,000 cases. By the end of April, 10,000 cases. By mid-April, 5,000 cases. As in 1,000 at the beginning of April. By mid-April, 5,000. By end April, 10,000. In 10 days, 10,000 cases, basically.
If things continue in the way in which
if things continue in the way, but the way things are continuing, we've only seen 4 cases of local transmission.
There are those who will tell you that this is because we aren't testing enough. But anyone who mentioned testing is only talking about part of the story. You see, you can test and test negative, and yet you still have the virus.
Yep.
You can test positive, and yet you're probably on the downward spiral of this particular case and you're in the process of healing, because we are not talking enough of the number of people who've tested positive and who have actually beaten the virus. These numbers are greater by far than any numbers that indicate deaths that are caused by the virus.
Yep.
And we should mention this as often as we can, that yes, people have tested positive, but many have, the vast majority of those who test have actually beaten the virus. They've gone through that cycle of waiting, of being in quarantine, and they've come out well.
Over 90% chance of survival.
Yes.
Because in Italy, the death toll is now, the death rate is at 10%.
Yes, 10%, yes. It's 10%.
So 90% chance of survival.
It can even be higher. And I think that's where all these measures come into place. Saying, why are you thinking of 90? Why don't we just push it towards 100?
Yep.
That's better for everybody.
Just survive.
Yeah, because that 10% as a figure or a percentage looks small. But if you look at the possibility of what that 10% can do in terms of spreading the virus, now that is alarming.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a huge one.
Yes.
It's huge. So this is the phase that the doctors are telling us. This is the bad season we're getting into. The Director General of Health, this is Kenya's premier medic, Dr. Patrick Amoth, says, look, guys, if we are not careful, our modeling is showing us how we can get to 10,000. He's adding that country's youthful population could spare the nation the devastating casualties witnessed in nations like Italy. It's possible people will get the virus and pass it on just as a mild illness. The fact that we are a youthful population means that, we could get it, weather the storm, and move.
Yes. All that is true. And everything that we're also hearing is true. But what is it that we need to focus on that will help us in the here and now, and will also ensure that when we are beyond the coronavirus, because we will go beyond it, that period will come.
Yep.
it's a certainty, it will come. We can determine what that certainty will be. Meaning, it will be a certainty where we've gone through the coronavirus, but it has devastated us, or it has come to an end, and by and large, we've weathered it well. Yeah. Now, the decisions that are being made now is what will determine these details of the outcome.
What's a critical decision that you think ought to be made now?
One, honesty. The government needs to be honest with itself, not even us. Because if they can't be honest with themselves, they will certainly not be able to be honest with us. Okay? This isn't the time for PR. Not really. This is a time for truth. Modulate it and yes. Make sure.
You know, City.
Yes.
PR doesn't mean lying.
No. PR doesn't mean avoiding the truth.
PR doesn't mean not telling the truth.
PR means telling as much truth as you possibly can in a nice way.
Yes.
That's the PR I'm talking about. I'm saying it doesn't require PR. The nice thing that I'm saying here, reduce the niceness.
In this case, it doesn't need to be made to look pretty. Just say it as it is and tell us what the situation
Find out
is.
a way in which you can
You'll be
say it.
surprised at how accommodating
Can I
people
give an
be to
example
the
of what I
truth.
mean?
Yes.
All right? When people started coming into the country, back into the country, there was nothing wrong in saying, folks, this thing has got us flat-footed. You're being inconvenienced because we're trying to figure out what to do. There'll be hiccups, but as they come, please call this number so that we can see how best we can sort it out. This is a work in progress. We are working on it. It is the truth. There'll be ho, hey, he. You've said it.
Yeah.
We'll be giving you an update every 3 days, every 4 days. Now, Mutahi Kagwe has done a good job of being in the public mind, eye, and hear, and within earshot
Every
regularly.
afternoon.
Yes, it is a good thing. That is a platform from which a lot can be communicated, and you can gain back the confidence that the government had lost. Simply by doing that. Now, when what you say mirrors what is happening, people trust you. It's just within a short time, because right now, much as people distrust, right now the need for trust is even greater than before.
Yeah.
People want to trust.
Yeah.
They want to feel the government
Want to cling on hope.
Yes. And the government is the one agent that can do this. Truth goes a long way in promoting this.
The gentleman who spoke to The Economist a few months, actually not a few months ago, it seems like so long ago, but it was actually about 3 weeks ago. And this is one of the things that he said. And he was very clear on this and said, you know what, beyond all the medication and the workers and etc., the thing that is going to be able to fight this virus, to fight this whole idea around the medical part of it, the economics of it, is honesty. From nations, and it wasn't just prescribing this to Africa, to the whole world.
Everywhere.
Everyone, and say, look,
Get
you
people
got
on
to
board.
apply a dose of honesty to this thing, because that is how you're going to get people on board to work with you.
You either do two things: become very honest and try and win people over, or you load it on people. You tell them, stay at home.
I've said it.
You know, you can combine the two.
We can combine the two.
You can tell people the truth and say, because of this is what we now need to do. Okay? We need to tell you because this is what we are doing. And even phrasing it, I'm sure the minister has very well qualified communication experts, but phrasing it. When you want to enjoin people, your language has to actually enjoin them. Your government, not the government. Your government, my government, your government, our government wants to do this. So you feel our. But if you say the government, it is them.
It's them.
And then there's us. Phrasing.
But if it's we, you give people the sense that you're working
You
together.
say it often that people feel. You see, language is what you use to promote whatever it is that we are talking about. Now, if you look at today's saying, which we did not even consider, but when I state it, it'll be clear. It is, wisdom is like a baobab tree. No one individual can embrace it. You see? Wisdom is like a baobab tree.
You need to join hands to go around.
Yes. This is one of those situations where a simple saying like this becomes amply obvious. The whole country has to be mobilized by word and then deed. When they are mobilized, these things the government wants to do become simpler because the resistance is infinitely reduced.
Yep.
Yes. But it has to be in the language on a daily basis. And we already have the platform.
It's there. And people are willing to listen.
They are willing to listen and they even want
People
to believe.
want to know.
And they want to believe.
Yeah.
However, at the same time, I keep feeling like I'm conflicted when we talk about, trying to win people over, getting people on board. When people are coming from a position of distrust, it's going to take you a lot of time to win them over, whereas the virus is not giving you that time.
Yes.
Combine that thing with the heavy hammer.
Remember, I said word and deed.
Heavy hammer. For example, the CS yesterday was saying, look, guys, so we are now showing, our statistics are showing that now this thing is being transmitted in our community, right? And therefore, for us to fight this thing, we need to up our game. I am pleading with all those people in Nairobi, please do not go out of the city of Nairobi. Don't go up country. Nairobi is the one with the highest numbers. Don't go up country. I am pleading with you. I am thinking he should have said, from tonight, no buses getting out of the up country buses. Maliza. SGR, yes, you've reduced your number of trips, but stop it. Nobody leaves or enters Nairobi for next 2 weeks, the next 10 days. Why not just say that?
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking, when you plead with people not to go home, people are thinking, let me go home.
There's something positive about that, though. If I plead and you don't comply, when I clamp down, I now have ample reason.
Right, because I asked you in the
It doesn't have to take a week.
But by that time,
Yes, Eric, by
you'll have
that,
taken it
it is
from the hotspot of Nairobi to create a new hotspot like we did with Kilifi.
Eric, it is true what we are saying, but what is equally true, I've been thinking about this. It's not as though the government doesn't have a plan.
It definitely has a plan.
It has a plan. It doesn't, and they're working towards it. Their plan seems to be, let us do this thing incrementally. Unfortunately, that strategy doesn't really work very well with the COVID-19. No. The COVID-19, unfortunately, requires
doesn't wait for you.
some unpleasant
There's a
steps.
point where the numbers will not allow us to be incremental.
We are actually there. I mean, you're talking about it as though it's coming. It's already there. What I'm saying is that the government has a plan, but we need to, again, as citizens and as part of the government, we need to contribute and say, whatever it is that we're doing, we need to fast track it and clamp down. Because if we don't contain it, we will not, the situation will be out of our hands.
We need to internalize this message.
Yes.
When you look at Nairobi and the areas where which have been mapped as hotspots, you can imagine, number one, and this was on the Standard on Sunday, you privileged, think carefully about what how you're treating this disease. The people who've come into the country have come within Nairobi. They have mingled with certain cadre of people, and that's a certain cadre of people that's spreading this disease. Now, those people, if you talk to people in that cadre, they don't think of themselves as the ones who are transmitters of the disease.
And yet they are.
They're telling them, they'll keep arguing. The government cannot lock down. It can't go into a full lockdown.
Our rights.
How will people in Kibra survive? That time, you're sitting like that in a pub, transmitting this disease amongst yourself, and talking about the people in Kibra. Right? We need to start thinking different. We need to operate differently. Agency releases 130,000 litres of free hand sanitizers. We spoke to the chairman of the Kenya Pipeline Company yesterday, John Gomi, and he told us this is what was going to happen. And yes, that's what they're saying now. The PS for Petroleum, Andrew Kamau, says hand sanitizers whose production KPC was coordinating will be distributed for free across the country, mainly targeting the informal settlements. The president has directed us to ensure that we make available to Kenyans, especially those from low socioeconomic backgrounds, free hand sanitizers to fight this global pandemic. The oil companies involved are Vivo Energy Kenya, Total Kenya, Ola Energy, Kenol Kobil, Pwani Oil, and Sayana Oil East Africa. Sepiana, rather. Right? In less than 2 weeks, KPC is oil marketing companies and other players have produced over 130,000 litres. These are available for distribution. Also, fumigation of streets is starting in Mombasa and Kwale. They started on Sunday on mass fumigation of all social places to contain the spread. We've also seen the same happening in Nairobi. Fumigation happening around Nairobi, especially in the market areas and on the streets. They're taking advantage of the curfew at night because now you have a lot of space.
Can be done. Floods menace in Nyanza Western adds to virus fears for weary locals. So there's so many things that continue to happen in the country. And this, still, we can tie it into what's going on with Corona. Victims are sheltered in schools, churches, and officials decry social distancing challenge. A 67-year-old man was swept away by raging floods in Rarieda, Siaya County on Saturday, as thousands of families were displaced in parts of Nyanza and Western following heavy rains and backflow from Lake Victoria. The authorities are now grappling with the twin scare of COVID-19 outbreak, requiring strict enforcement of social distancing and high sanitation standards, as well as safety and humanitarian measures for the thousands forced to move to safer ground. So two issues that we're having to battle now. The most affected areas are Budalangi in Busia County, Nyando in Kisumu, Nyatike in Migori, and West Ugenya and parts of Rarieda in Siaya. On Saturday, families in the flood-prone areas of Budalangi spent the night in the cold. So we're still having to deal with this. We had this conversation in December. We talked about it again at the beginning of the year. And here we are where the floods have come back. And, I don't know that they really went anywhere. But then a situation now where people are saying, we're going to have to huddle people in a space because they've had to leave their homes because of the raging floods.
By the way,
at the same time, we're trying to get them to practice social distancing. What are we going to do?
There are people who were huddled in December who never went back to their homes.
This is the thing. That's what I'm saying.
It
never really went anywhere.
No, it didn't. And also, it's not the floods. The lakes, not lakes, have been swelling, and by something like a meter per day.
Yeah.
It has been happening before these rains came. Yes.
This is heavy.
Yes.
Literally.
So people who had homes, you know how you have beachfront,
Yeah.
seafront.
Permanent.
No, it's not
waterfront.
waterlogged.
Yeah, waterlogged front.
Meaning you find an entire house is almost submerged. So it tells you about the levels of that water, but it also tells you that where you had built on was probably previously lake.
Yeah.
That's now water reclaiming its previous habitation.
Mother Nature always returns home at
Yes.
the end of the day. She's going to find her place where she's supposed to be.
So now you compound this with the flooding. It's as we had stated when we had the floods. You now have a new problem with diseases.
Yes. I mean, look, this is
completely new.
when we talked about the list of diseases, I mean, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about the dysentery. We're going to talk about cholera. We're going to talk about typhoid and all sorts of other things. Corona, yes,
And with the rain,
takes
you're going to
her
talk about
place.
pneumonia.
Okay? Pneumonia and things like this, all right? That whole bastion of things that we have to deal with, and then now say, we actually don't need you to be huddled in a space because of corona. We need you then to maintain social distance. How on earth?
How do you maintain
How
such-
would
how?
you do it in a situation like this, where now schools are being used, where churches are being used, where social halls are being used to house people who have had to leave because of the flooding?
Actually, the one positive thing in all this is that there are no children in schools.
Yeah. Would have been an absolute mess.
It would have been an utter disaster. Without children in schools, the spaces that people can be taken to are more. But then, is that really a solution?
Yeah.
It's a stopgap measure, we understand. And we did know about the rains. We did know that when there's lots of it, it causes flooding. We've known about the lakes creeping onto land that was previously its own. We've known all this. And just when you think it is safe to get out this particular water, I don't think the locusts went anywhere. Or did they go on sabbatical and are soon to come back?
Well, if we're going to jump on that story, we might as well now, because the state now says that it doesn't know how it's going to be able to deal with the locust menace. And looking at particular counties where you have new swarms, as had been predicted by the Food and Agriculture Organization, have said that these new swarms are in and still continue to destroy vegetation in the country. So the state is actually saying now they don't know how they're going to be able to battle this one.
You know, the bad part about the floods and all is initially it was taking the government very long to mobilize help for them. Now you can imagine the Ministry of Devolution is now going to be focused on what it can do in the event of a lockdown and such. So they are not even thinking about people who are sitting somewhere in Budalangi and be a chief or Wangeleshe. The assistance that they need, they're not going to get it in good time. They're not going to get it as well as they ought to get.
Begs the question, which one do you think, which disaster do you deal with first? before you deal with the other one.
Yeah.
Where do you start?
Where do you start?
Yeah, which one do you have to
You're
deal
all
with?
over, man. I mean, you're just wondering, okay, so what is it? What can I do now? What can I do now? What can I not? Some good news, though. Harambee Fund was created by the president yesterday, right? We've been talking about what we as Kenyans can do to help those in our midst who need some support, and a well-structured format of mobilizing resources. So the president yesterday created the fund, and he appointed Jen Karuku, the MD of Kenya Breweries, as the chair of this. The other members are all men. She's the only chairman who's not a man. The chairman is the only person who's not a man. Other members include Narendra Raval, Joshua Oigara, Jeremy Awori, Washira Waroro, Mohamed Hersi, Phyllis Wakiaga, and Kennedy Kihara as the secretary. And then, of course, Fred Matiang'i and Wycliffe Oparanya will be the government.
There are two women. There's Phyllis Wakiaga.
Oh, Phyllis, yes. Phyllis Wakiaga, indeed. Yes, two women in the committee. So their job is basically to mobilize resources around the country and internationally to help us cope with this disaster. We wait to hear from them. We should be speaking to Ms. Jen Karuku in coming days when they settle in. It's not one of those jobs where you take a week to settle in.
Oh, no.
You look
This
for
one,
an
you
office.
literally hit the ground running.
This one, yes. It's
You
immediate.
work on the go, my friend.
Start talking to one another. You don't need to meet physically. So you're doing all video conferencing and calls, and they all know each other. I mean, these are people who know each other anyway. There's nobody here who's a stranger to the other.
Meanwhile, top KPA managers would not be able to escape from returning money even with COVID, because they will face disciplinary action over unending tender scams. Several senior Kenya Ports Authority managers will face a disciplinary action, including being forced to refund lost money over several tender malpractices in the organization, which saw its managing director leave last week. A KPA board audit and risk committee report prepared in March 2018 shows that managers in the finance, procurement and engineering departments have been asked to explain several malpractices which has seen the organization either bleed money, building to losses amounting to billions of shillings. So COVID will not save them in this case. They must pay back the money.
Wow.
As we go into the hour, the senators have decided to meet.
Yes, they have.
And 15 of them will meet, but 15 is the number you require, it's a quorum you require to be able to transact business. Good show.
It's a good thing.
Good show.
Tell us about wisdom. Today's proverb.
Wisdom is like a baobab tree. No one individual can embrace it. If you look at the trunk of a baobab tree, it has a really broad trunk.
It does.
Yes, it doesn't matter how long your hands are. Not possible.
Tree huggers have tried and failed.
Tree huggers have tried. Even if you tie
So
yourself
I
to it.
want you to explain what hugging wisdom would mean. It's coming up to 7 o'clock. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Good morning.
Getting out from 7
Spice
o'clock
up
this
your
morning and to see that more vehicles on the streets, but nothing to really be worried about. Traffic is flowing very well on Mombasa Road. It'll probably dissipate in a very short while when people get where they need to go. And in Mombasa, we saw that the ferry situation is under control, as it were, and people are getting to and from work. Still, Matatu's defying orders. Guys, come on. Only 14 seaters, 8, get to the number so we keep people safe. That's the thing. And then you could also do your part. Don't get into a matatu that's over 4. Please. We're trying to maintain social distance. Wash your hands. Be safe. Spice FM KE is how you can reach us on Twitter. Let us know what you see in case there's anything that's happening on the roads that we need to warn other people about.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin.
It's 2.5
agent
minutes after 7 o'clock. Good
the
morning. Thank you
man in
very
the
much for
chair,
tuning in to The
seasoned
Situation.
journalist,
This is Kenya's biggest
newshound,
conversation.
a man who believes
Broadcasting
in punching
Nairobi
up, not
on
down.
94.4, Mombasa
This is The
87.9,
Situation Room.
102.5 in
The
Kisumu, Nakuru 96.0, 96.7 in Eldoret, Nyeri 90.9, Malindi 97.7, and broadcasting worldwide, www.spicefm.co.ke. This signal is being streamed all over the world. People in the United States, in Shanghai, China, in Wuhan, China, in India, Bangalore, in Kampala, Uganda, in Lagos, Nigeria,
I was waiting.
In Botswana.
in Botswana, in the Kingdom of Eswatini.
Yes,
small, I beg.
yes.
They're all watching it. You can even stream it live on our Facebook platform, Spice FM KE, on YouTube, Spice FM KE, as well as Twitter, Spice FM KE. So we are dealing with Corona, COVID-19. We have a government that has set up the National Emergency Response Committee. The Emergency Response Committee is telling us what we ought to do. However, Corona, as we were discussing in the last hour, is exposing a lot of things about what we have been neglecting over time in the country. And these things are, CT.
Top of the list, corruption. Why corruption? If we were to follow the same edicts that we seem to be prescribing, that is speaking the truth, then we need to look at these things squarely in the eye. There's hardly any problem that we can look at in this country which doesn't have corruption tagging somewhere along with it.
Yeah.
Whether it is procurement in whichever ministry you want to think of, it will be corruption. In the recent past, we've had cases within KPA. Again, it's corruption. It's still in the papers today. It's corruption. If you're talking about procurement of equipment that was intended to help ensure the safety of the health of our citizenry, again, it's corruption. If you look at even our judiciary, there's talk of corruption. If you look at the agencies that have been set up to fight corruption, even within them, you will still find there's corruption.
Yeah.
We talk about COVID-19 as a threat, but if you look carefully, the real threat all along has been this corruption or the impunity that enables it to flourish. And the consequences that we're now dealing with and why it's become so obvious and why it's in our face is because the very things that needed to have been dealt with were not dealt with. And so here we are. Not on life's door. We are still alive and well, and we thank God, and we can continue to be. But the threat is palpable because innately we all know many things that ought to have done were never done. But there's a chance to do things right. And this is the thing that the COVID has done. It has provided us with an opportunity to ensure that things which were never done can
now get done.
Yes, because our lives are at stake. This one, there's no ifs and buts. There's no perhaps. We're dealing with a when situation.
It sounds a bit morbid, but then you'd want to now throw up your hands and say, well, this could be a hallelujah moment, because then what it does is that it shows what the truths are and say that it provides us then with an opportunity. I mean, if it had not been seen before, and not just in Kenya, but in countries, you know, if you want to look at sub-Saharan Africa, if you want to look at the continent, for example, it gives you then an opportunity to say, now I have the basis upon which to make a decision in the future. And I have seen that certain things actually are not, I mean, if I had any kind of doubt, now it is very clear to me that certain things have not been working over the past for 1, 2, 3, 4 reasons. And then I can say, aha, this now fuels my decision for the future. Whom am I going to put in a position of leadership who is going to make sure that never again we'll be in such circumstances? Never again we will be able to look at the newspaper and be in a mess where you see that you don't even have something where others would see it as basic ICU facilities, for example. Somebody would see as basic running water, something that other people in other countries don't even consider. They don't even regard as something that is necessary. When you talk about mapping and databases of your people in your country, whereas you subject them to census over time, you subject them to bringing in their data over time, and then you've not even been able to collate it and collect it in a way or in a manner that's going to be able to make you see this is the number, this is the amount that we're going to have to spend if we need to feed our people. You're not going to have to think twice about the kind of leader that you're going to put into power again, because now you understand and you see that those who've been at the helm have made a bungled mess of it over time. So I'm in one sense, they say actually there's nothing that you can never not be thankful about. So here's something that
so this is an opportunity.
This is an opportunity, and a huge one at that.
It does expose very many failures. I'm sitting here though wondering whether it's going to trickle down to a clear understanding by all of us as the citizens. Because for a long time, this whole issue of corruption, we've lived with it. We've known that the government is corrupt.
Even normalized it.
We've normalized it.
It's normal.
When this issue of when the first case was announced in the country, what did Kenyans say? Very many Kenyans are saying, they heard about the World Bank money. They want that money. There's hakuna corona. I was speaking to somebody at a fuel station just the day before yesterday. And I asked them, so now that we even have a curfew at night, it's like, this thing, they're still trying to reach for that money. They want to spend that money. They're keeping us busy so they can eat this money. The money has come. This week, somebody is still thinking that way, right?
And
so
unfortunately,
it's still looking at those guys as government, and we do our thing. They take the money, they eat the money, whatever.
But are these things, are these sentiments not founded on some kind of truth?
They are, of course,
because
founded.
if I wouldn't be surprised if we hear in a year from now that actually some money that was supposed to be meant to fight COVID, etc., trickled down and found its home in somebody's pocket. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yes.
Okay.
Even these free hand sanitizers, you'll hear some
you
scandal.
say scandal behind it.
Consider the fight that there was within the agencies that were set up to fight corruption. Consider the hurdles and the barriers that they faced. Remember, there was this little issue. The president began and said, why don't we do an audit? Hey! That thing was fought.
Yep.
That thing, until you wondered. Before you knew it, somebody had brought a bill to Parliament to disband the anti-corruption. And that was the time when the Anti-Corruption Commission had picked this thing up and they were beginning to
run
make...
with it.
Yes.
Yep.
Before you knew it, you then had a problem even with the Judicial Service Commission. And this one was a direct conflict of interest. You have somebody who is a member of the Judicial Service Commission, okay? He is practicing as a lawyer. And I remember the Judicial Service Commission are the ones who actually choose judges.
Yep.
I'm talking about Professor Jenda here, all right? Now, you tell me, somebody who sits on a committee that decides whether you can be a judge or not, comes before you as a lawyer, does not directly look smack? Does it not present a direct conflict of interest? But yet, it carried on. Hopefully now it will stop. I'm told there's a new person who has taken that position, somebody called Masharia, and who has sworn he will not go to court. But then in this country, people say things. But let's give it a ray of hope. Look also at the decisions and the pronouncements that have been made even within the judiciary when it comes to things like providing evidence. And as a layman, I'm thinking, but if you don't allow these agencies to look into their accounts, how are they going to get the evidence that they want? Yes. And a court of law prohibits this. So you have to ask, is it that they're following the law, or are they skewing the interpretation of the law to suit the purposes of somebody else? You have to ask these questions. Now, to me, that is corruption fighting back. If the very organs of state that are supposed to ensure we have laws that make our lives better are fighting the very agencies that are actually trying to put things on track, then it's like the state fighting itself. So is it the state, or is it big corruption, or is it corruption fighting against the state, or fighting back? Which is it?
It's corruption just, living its life. Not even fighting anything.
That's a very interesting perspective. I'd never actually looked at it that way.
It's just living its life.
It's doing its thing. Eh?
It's just doing its thing. This whole talk of let's fight corruption, it doesn't come with uniform will.
No.
So there could be some goodwill from the president at one moment.
Yes.
And then he realizes that this thing, I'm the only one who's got the will to fight this thing, and I cannot fight it from all fronts.
This thing is not moving.
This thing is not moving. So he starts getting, of course, as a human being, you start getting tired. The fatigue sets in.
It actually does set in. You don't consider...
And corruption is just doing its thing.
Do you remember when we had one of our senators with us.
Mutula Kilonzo Jr.
Yes, Mutula Kilonzo Jr. There's something he mentioned that I've never forgotten. And it struck me as actually not just... You see, the judiciary is blamed as being a bottleneck.
Yep.
And yet when you talk to people in the judiciary, they say, but you know something. Forget the money that they slashed. Even the one they said they're going to give us, we don't get.
We don't get.
So you actually get to feel that the easiest way to frustrate anyone who wants to fight corruption is to starve them of cash.
Yep.
Because if they don't have the money, they can't do what they're supposed to do.
Cripple them.
You cripple them completely. So you actually find yourself in a situation where what we're calling big corruption has permeated the very organs of state. And they are fighting to ensure that business is as usual. Now, this COVID-19 is going to put stay on that. This one.
It's exposing them. No, I'm thinking unless the citizens, because the citizens are the ones, COVID has come to affect everybody, right? Including the ordinary citizen. Unless the ordinary citizen rises up with this COVID, the big corruption will survive. Big corruption will continue beyond COVID. Unless the citizens take this opportunity, they see, all right, so, COVID has come to expose things that we, the citizens, should have gotten. We should have had proper working health facilities. We should have had nice and proper provision of water and sanitation everywhere around the country. So that when you say shut down, at least you're getting water, you have electricity being supplied to you. You should have had a proper functioning government that has surpluses or at least some cash for a rainy day. And this is the rainy day. This is it. We don't have. We are broke. We should have had all this. So this is a time for us citizens to realize, that corruption it's not just for up there.
No. It affects you directly.
It affects you
directly. Here is the
directly.
effect directly. And until we internalize that and not say that, it's those guys who are corrupt, we need to do something to ensure that corruption.
And it always is very then
False.
important to see what the absence then of corruption would be able to do for a country. So now, for example, look at this rainy day in which we find
Very true,
ourselves.
very true.
So if there was none, what would we have now?
What would we have? Yes.
It would be very easy then for the government to call a lockdown and say, okay, just as an example of what people have been talking about for the last 1 week, lockdown would not be then so difficult to put in place. Because guess what?
We have bumper harvest in other parts of the country. We
Yes.
have
You would have
government
had food
machinery. We
reserves.
can go and get money.
The barns would be bursting with food.
Yep.
You would have had directives or initiatives in place whereby when there was a bumper harvest, you would have done things like dehydrate your milk, desiccate your grain. You would have been able to do so many things so that now when it comes to people not having food because they cannot go to work, you have somewhere to feed them.
There would have been food reserves almost in every
Everywhere.
county in this
exactly.
country. Yes.
You turn on
Everywhere.
your tap and water comes out of it. And so they don't have to start running after yourselves looking for clean water. So in the absence then of corruption, certain things then are able to happen in the situation where you have a rainy day.
Aurora Dam would actually been in existence.
Voila.
Wouldn't it?
would.
And if you look at things like power, for example, where we've said Kenya has a surplus of power for the next nth years, right? It would be no problem whatsoever where you tell the citizens of the country, it's all right, we're going to take care of your power bills for the next,
3
throw in
months.
a number.
Throw in
3
a number,
months.
3 months.
6 months.
We have,
And
because
that's
we-
okay.
Yes.
Because we have those things set in place and it's not sitting on some contracting issue with 2-3 individuals somewhere in the echelons of power. It's not necessary to have such things done. In the absence of corruption, things would happen. So getting people to see this is what we would then be able to do had we not have corruption.
But how would
in
people
so
see
deep.
that?
Actually, I want to go this narrative that Ndu has begun. I like it. In the absence of corruption, there would have been 10 ferries working instead of 4.
Yeah.
In the absence of corruption, we would not have been buying second-hand ferries at 700 million when Southern Engineering can actually produce the same ferries at 150 million.
Yeah.
Yes. In the absence of corruption, the SGR would have reached Kampala.
Yes.
In the absence of corruption, we too can release 1,000 ducks to eat these locusts that are ravaging
Imagine.
the counties
Yes.
in the north and northeastern parts of the country, around the country even, and not for fear that people will shoot the ducks and take to their house, because they too have also been able to benefit from food reserves.
In the absence of corruption, think of the milk glut we had in the country. Right now, we'd have had enough milk to give everybody in this country for free.
Yep. Everybody will be drinking
milk and staying healthy.
and staying healthy and staying at home.
That's
Yes.
what no corruption would be able to do. for
How
the
are we
people of the
going to
country.
see that though? It's just as a dream today as it
It's
was
a
last
beautiful
year.
dream. I want to sit and dream that one a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a nice one.
It's a nice one, isn't it?
Nothing is changing that dream. Show me the reality. Yes, COVID is coming. Yes, we're gonna die. Yes, yeah. If we didn't have corruption, we'd not have died. Yeah,
Did you say we're going to die?
yeah.
No, what Eric is saying is just
That's
a fundamental fact. We all die at some
I
point.
get it, but I mean,
COVID, we're gonna die. I mean, we're being prepared for that eventuality. 17 minutes after 7 o'clock. This is a situation. I mean, it's Kenya's biggest conversation. We're looking at where we are and how come we got here, and what would have been different if we hadn't done the kind of things that we did in the past. Good morning. Let's take a look at weather.
it's partly cloudy still, or mostly cloudy in Nairobi, with chance of rain in the afternoon, highs of 26 and lows of 16. In Nyeri at 17 degrees, it's mostly cloudy. Thunderstorms expected in the afternoon with highs of 24 and lows of 15. It's 15 degrees in Nakuru and partly cloudy. There's chance of rain in the afternoon with highs of 24 and lows of 14. Eldoret is partly cloudy at 14 degrees, highs of 24 and lows of 13. It's 21 degrees and mostly sunny in Kisumu today, likely to carry through for most of the day, with highs of 30 and lows of 19. It's 28 degrees in Malindi and partly cloudy, highs of 33 and lows of 28, and showers expected in the afternoon. Mombasa at 27 degrees is mostly sunny. Rain is coming in the afternoon with highs of 33 and lows of 27. Take a look then into Kampala at 22 degrees. It's partly cloudy. Thunderstorms expected in the afternoon with highs of 28 and lows of 21. Dar es Salaam is mostly sunny at 26 degrees. Thunderstorms with highs of 32 likely to debut in the afternoon. Johannesburg at 16 degrees, light rain showers being experienced there right now. Partly cloudy conditions to ensue in the afternoon with highs of 21 and lows of 14. And rounding things out in Lagos at 27 degrees, a high of 34 and lows of 26 with partly cloudy skies.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, everything nice. Ice FM.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.
Now,
I mean, think about
our
it.
situation would be very different.
Think about it. Think about a situation where these hurdles, these barriers are not there. Or if they're there, they're at a minimum. Courts are doing what they should do. I want the listeners to picture your least favorite individual whom you associate with corruption in those lovely striped pajamas that prisoners wear. you would have a situation where someone is taken to court and they actually even end up in prison. That's what would happen. Somebody who has stolen money and thinks that they've kept it safely and have built flats, the government appropriates those things, the money is returned. You have a situation where money that should have gone to kids' bursaries, university education, good healthcare facilities that have been stolen, brought back so that people can actually have the healthcare that they deserve as citizens. Children actually go to school. You're not afraid of child mortality because the hospitals can take care of this. All the wonderful things that you think are a dream become a reality simply because all the hurdles have been removed, the barriers have been removed, and you have a situation where we are actually heading towards being corrupt-free. One may say it will never happen, yes, but we'll have gone a long way in eliminating the very things that have put us in this awkward position that we're in.
Right.
You know, we're fortunate in that we had the DPP here, we had the CEO of the Anti-Corruption Commission, and they spoke to us. The one thing that they both spoke of in commonality was the frustrations and the fighting that they were doing from not outside, but people even within government itself. They were being thwarted by government agencies who ought to actually help them. And that's why they formed that particular agency that combined all the little departments within government that were fighting corruption. But imagine if they were actually doing what they can do, being adequately funded. Anyone who had the idea or was fomenting the thoughts of being corrupt would stem it. They would nip it in the bud and they would actually choose a different path. But because this path has actually illuminated the benefits of impunity, people have a... But that picture of people in those pajamas being jailed...
It's nice, eh?
No, that picture is a good picture.
Why don't we get to that point where we don't even need to see people in pajamas getting jailed? Because nobody has stolen.
The pajamas is useful in this sense. It sends a picture of the consequences. You see, consequences often act as a deterrent. Sometimes it acts as something that encourages people to move.
Yep.
In this case, impunity is what has encouraged people to continue doing the things they do. Now, if you have something that clearly shows that there's a very serious cost, literally everybody we talk about in
But
our
what would it take, City? What would it take? What would it take for us to get there?
You know, I was coming to what you've been saying the whole morning, the public. This one, if we are tired of people putting us in the situation that we're in and we're doing nothing about it, it's as good as us contributing to our own harm.
We contribute to it.
We are. It's as good as. Now, the question I would ask is, how do I, as a citizen, what do I do to ensure that this doesn't happen? How do I call this out? How do I shame this? How do I refuse to do this? I would start by telling the citizen, stop taking that 50 bob and 100 bob that they keep giving you. Just don't take it. Don't, because it cannot help you beyond a day. Don't take it.
Yesterday, I had a conversation. Don't ask me how we conversed, but I had a conversation with a gentleman outside of a mall over here at the Greater Mombasa Road. And he basically said to me, you know, he's one of the Okada border riders. And they were being... Okada, I was going to say, I said Okada,
Okay,
right?
yeah, you said Okada.
Right.
So we've got the Okada. Now carry on, yes.
Got it. So there was the operation by the Machakos County government to remove all the border riders because of the fact that, you know, COVID is here and they didn't want them riding in close proximity. They didn't see that, though. That's not what they saw.
What are they seeing?
They see that the government is clamping down on them, and the very little that they can get every day, they're not now able to get. And now, what am I supposed to eat?
No, wanakula huko juu.
That's it. And look at these roads. The roads are so terrible. They come and they give us 500 shillings every time there's an election. This is what he said to me yesterday. They come and give us 500 shillings every time there's an election, and then we forget about them for 5 years.
Yep.
But the roads are terrible. And then now when I'm trying to eat, I'm trying to get 300 shillings a day. In fact, he did some math for me that it hurt my head because I don't understand how they're able to survive, right? And he said, we're trying to get this amount, 350 shillings every day is what I'm trying to get.
Yeah.
And then now they come and tell me about COVID. I can't carry people, and they're chasing us all over the place, trying to lock us up. It was not a COVID idea for him. It was an idea of a government who is continuing to stifle his efforts to survive. So you can imagine now the disconnect between the two. So him in his mind is looking for a place whereby even if you tell me not to work because of this disease, what kind of blanket are you then, what kind of security are you then providing for me? So that would be a perfect person to imagine this wonderful picture that CT and I are trying to paint today. That would be the perfect person who would be able to see, wow.
That person, no,
in
no, I
this
think
case,
in that person's
when somebody
mindset,
comes to give me
yes.
500 shillings, I don't need to make my decision on the 500 shillings. I make my decision based on this thing that I'm imagining can actually be a reality, whereby we put the right people in government, in positions of
I'm not
leadership.
saying like he's thinking about the right person being in office or at all. He's just thinking, well, whoever is in office, you come and give me 50 bob at that point. If you are coming to give me 50 bob today, fine. If it was about whoever is running that operation, let's assume it's Governor Alfred Mutua's government and he has sent his people. If Alfred Mutua was saying, all right, so from my own pocket, I'm giving you 300 bob, he'd be like, Mutua is the man.
Oh, no. But you see, they've made the connect already because he said already, look, you're coming to give us 500 shillings when we know that, for example, all the roads in this area are in a terrible state.
That talk
right?
is not new, Ndu.
Yes, this is what I'm saying to
It's
you at
not
this point.
new.
No. But, I think they resonate with the fact that CC says all the time, you think people don't know? They know that the roads are terrible. They know that things are in a bad state. But at that point, you give
And
me that
they
500
know-
bob because
and
I'm
they
going
know
to cheat
that
you that
they
I'm
take
going to
the
vote
50
for
bob.
you.
Yeah.
Right? So you can imagine now when it comes close, this thing, we may not realize how close to home now it has come when we're talking about
We've
COVID.
got to have a complete paradigm shift. Our
And
thinking
this, I'm telling
throughout-
you, this entrant, this COVID is the one that is it's a contributor to this shift.
It's a contributor.
It's
I am
a
just
huge
hoping that we
contributor
get
to
there.
this shift for people
Because
to be able to see.
the talk of
Alas,
frustration with
alas,
government-
these leaders that you're putting into power with your vote, Omo, there's nothing they're
the
doing
frustration
for
with
you.
government is always there. That's why there's a lot of mistrust, or is it distrust? One of those that you keep telling us, right? One begins.
Mistrust is the absolute one.
Well, it's the
Now,
absolute.
Finished.
forget. Distrust is
It's the beginning,
Okay,
so it-
okay, maybe.
So mistrust with the government, it's constantly there. That's why, and the government tells you, don't go home. You're like,
What?
don't go home where? The government tells you there is COVID now, just start washing your hands. You're thinking, I'll wash my hands, but I know it's the money you want.
In fact, you've been given soap
You've
which you're
been-
holding.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know. Even that soap, where is
Yeah.
it?
But we know that mindset, we always have that mindset. But now trying to look at it and saying, okay, why is it that I do not have access to a health facility? Why is it that I do not have access right now if the government is taking long to make decisions because it's thinking political expediency, or it's thinking, you know what, I've really messed up. If I tell this person to stay at home, I've got to come and sort them out. When we get to that point when we are thinking that way, then our thinking, the paradigm shift that I'm sort of looking for is where we're saying, my conversation with the politician is not going to be because he's coming to tell me I can give you 50 bob, or because we're going to have BBI, or because we're going to have our people in office, or because we're going to be able to, when we have our people in office, we're going to be able to bring development closer to home. No, I don't really care. My conversation is, I want a health facility.
You know, this conversation, when we talk about the citizenry here, we have to cover everybody.
Yes.
When, for instance, you heard of a case where this gentleman, the MP for Aldai, Colonel Serem, he's the one who wanted the Anti-Corruption Commission disbanded. When will we have leaders who are standing up to fight for legislation that you can clearly see is actually going to uplift the life? You see, that's what we mean. So it's not at just 1 inch. No. Leaders doing what they're supposed to do.
Yes.
You're an MP, you speak out.
You actually do what you're supposed to
If
do.
there's corruption in your midst, you say, you know something, let's not look at other agencies. Here, right here, we have this problem. Now, when people speak out that way, you then strengthen the larger, say, citizenry.
Yep.
To see leadership is doing what it's supposed
Stand
to
up and be counted.
do.
Be
Exactly.
the odd one out.
Exactly. And you know, it's a question
Be
of
the red
choice.
egg in the
It's a
tray.
question of choice. I want to read a quotation for you by somebody called Mark Charles, no relative of mine. Says,
No?
today, no, none whatsoever.
Mark
Today,
Charles.
Mark Charles, yes. Says,
MC.
today we may choose peace over chaos, respect over belittling, thoughtlessness over reaction, faith over fear, and others over ourselves. You like?
I do
I do.
very much.
Yes. It's a choice. We can choose. We can decide. And decision is never a group activity. It is you who decide. You get into a group when you have people who think like you huddling together. That's when you form that group. But the thinking that gets you there is at an individual level.
You will be alone for a long time.
Oh, you will be. And
you
it's
will
okay.
stand out alone for a long time.
And it's okay.
Tomorrow, the 1st of April, is the birthday of Wangari Maathai. Right? And I know the Wangari Maathai Foundation is organizing a lot of talk around this.
Mm-hmm.
They've been hit by COVID. So, of course, their talk is going to be, muzzled by everything else that's happening. But Wangari Maathai, remember, even in her book, she talks about just standing up and being the lone soldier. Be the hummingbird. Be the one that just does something. You believe in this, just do it. Don't say the government is going to plant trees, or why is the government not planting trees? Just plant the tree. Go ahead and do it. So, like I'm hearing, City, that's the same thing that Mark Charles was saying. It's about you taking the initiative.
It's you.
You doing it.
This
You as the person. I'm going to vote for C.T. Muga. Everybody else looks at C.T. and thinks, but I listened to C.T. Muga and I thought C.T. Muga is making sense. I'm going to vote for C.T. Not because, you're wasting your vote. It doesn't matter. Let me waste my vote. I'm going to vote for C.T. And I'm going to campaign for C.T. Something like that. You're making the change that you want. You are the change that you want to see. It's not easy.
Do you remember there's a lady who died very recently in the US? And the one thing that she did, it seemed like an innocuous activity. She refused to be moved from the seat in a bus.
Yep.
During the days of segregation in the US. Refused. That refusal. She didn't hit anybody. Just says, no. This
is it.
She became an icon. And she was the face of that non-violent resistance when people were fighting for something simple like equal rights. You see, we are fighting not for equal rights, for rights that are actually ours.
Yep.
And which we are entitled to. And the truth of the matter is that everyone is entitled, and these are rights. You are entitled to reasonable, affordable health care. It's your right.
You know what? As you say that, I realize that there is miseducation, or in this case, uninformation about what people actually have the right to. And because they don't know, they cannot demand. Unfortunately. This is it.
They get to accept that the mediocrity that is being handed over to them is what is due. It isn't.
It isn't.
Yep.
There is a lot more. If there is so much that others can have so much of it in the same country, some of it is actually yours.
And the small percentage of leaders realize that the people do not actually know what their rights are, and they're able to use that to lord it over in this mediocrity.
You know what I find strange? You can actually have plenty, but others can also have enough.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It's true. Let's take a look at traffic. This is a situation 26 minutes to 8 o'clock.
Has it changed much? Not really. We still have the same state on the roads, major roads within the city, and then outside of the city, basically as easy as possible. It's probably going to change in the afternoon as people then rush to get home to beat the curfew times. But for now, this morning, it's easy streets wherever you want to look around the city, and the same in Mombasa, same in Kisumu actually, around major towns in the city. Unless something out of the ordinary, for now, our traffic remains pliable. Unfortunately, fares have been increased, so we have still quite a number of people walking. And Spice FM KE is how you can let us know what it is that you do see, and we can share.
Everything nice. All right. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
KE on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. www.spicefm.co.ke. This is a Situation Room. In the room, we have Eric Latif, Nduoko, CT Muga. COVID-19 is exposing a lot of things in our society. Let's look at the positives that COVID-19 has brought with it. One of them is that we can now see what's not been working. And we can start interrogating and asking ourselves, really, why?
Yes. And underpinning everything that we seem to have gone wrong, there seems to be a tug of corruption right behind it, or even right in front of it, or right next to it. How do you get rid of this demon? When corruption becomes something in our society that is considered normal, something is really definitely wrong. There's nothing normal about being poor. There's nothing normal about not being able to seek health when you are part and parcel of the community of citizens who actually contribute to the national coffer. There is nothing normal in your child not being able to go to school. There's nothing normal in you not being able to get a job when you're educated, you've trained, and you are at the prime of your life when you actually want to contribute to this country.
Yep.
There's nothing normal about it.
Yep.
There's nothing normal when every other day the very state officials who you know are supposed to protect you are the ones who are constantly involved in wrongdoing. There's nothing normal about that. That thinking is not just, it has to change, it has to go away completely.
Completely.
Yes, it's not change, it has to go away. Because the very, very country that the people who mismanage our resources live in, the same country we live in. It's not as though somebody goes to another country and then comes back. Same country. We share the same resources, the same air. We're the same citizenry. We are relatives. We are bound together. We don't. This is our country. It's not as though we have a spare country that we can sort of like transfer to every time things get very thick. It's this one.
I hear you saying where people then have to rise up and say, stand up and be counted. And the example that you gave of Rosa Parks, she was not in government. She was not in leadership.
Nope.
There was even nothing. She was just a citizen.
There was nothing about her really that you would say this was somebody who was a daughter of privilege or she had the right connections. Nothing. She looked at things as they had been over time and said, you know what? We cannot continue like this. And she didn't go to some place where nobody would have noticed her.
No.
She went to a place where, one, everybody would have noticed. Number two, the players would then be able to see her and say, she's actually in a place where she's not supposed to be, as it were. And she was in a place that would have made the most impact.
Do you know the interesting
in terms
story
of a
about Rosa
decision
Parks,
being taken?
Ndu? She was not sitting in the white section of the bus. No. She was sitting in the black, section of the bus. But they wanted her to get up to make way for a white lady. She says no.
No way.
Surely.
This is actually where I'm
Says
supposed to be.
no. This one I'm not doing. Sorry.
Even because you can imagine, first of all, there should have been no segregation on the bus anyway.
But there was.
Now there's segregation. And then even in the place where you have allowed me to sit, you still want to come
segregate
and
me further.
segregate.
Yeah. She said no.
This woman sat in this chair next to me and she talked about the fact that this chicken that you're being given, it's your chicken. They've taken it from your compound. They've taken it, they've cooked it, they've taken all the choice parts and they've given you the feet and the nails, and then you still want to swallow and say it's okay.
They're actually claws.
Even the place where you have given me to sit, then you still want to tell me to stand up. Absolutely not. So yes, I do agree that it is time that it's not because you're privileged or in a position of power. It's actually not the people in power who are going to change things, whether it's in Kenya, whether it's in South Africa, whether it's in Nigeria. It's the people over whom the rule then is meted who are going to be the ones to change things.
I want to address these people whom we've elected, these individuals whom we call honorable and have behaved so dishonorably towards the people who actually elected them. They need to stand up because they are the ones who we elected to have the power to represent us and the power to change things. If you can't meet to make the decision that we need right now, you ought to resign. Because it is clear you don't really understand and you've never fully understood the mandate for which you elect. Resign. Let us go for another election. Those who think they understand why it is they were elected and that a time of crisis such as this one requires them to stand up and be counted, stand up and be counted. This is the time. Not tomorrow, not the day after. Today.
This is
Now.
it.
This is it.
This is your moment.
This is it. And you miss this one, it'll be gone and you'll have missed it and that'll be it.
And don't just stand up for one
No.
in one thing and then something else. You're like, okay, it's those guys. I mean,
It's the principle of it, and continuously stand. Continuously. You know, there are politicians in this country who've made a name for themselves. You know of one thing? Always speaking out when they think something is wrong.
Yep.
Always speaking out.
They never hold back.
No, it is a lonely position. You will be told things you've never heard of.
Yeah.
You will be called names. A time comes when people say, why isn't so and so speaking? Mbona amenyamaza?
Mbona tumsikii siku hizi?
Yes. Why is he not speaking? We've heard this. Why is he not speaking? Because people actually recognize and know what is good for them. They do know.
Yeah.
But even as people who have been elected to do so, we also need to do so. If the government is telling you, don't crowd, for heaven's sake, it's for your sake. Don't
Stop
crowd.
crowding.
If the government is telling you to be home at 7, stop leaving your place of work at 7. Leave at 5.
Especially
Go.
because there's an explanation
Yes.
that follows that order.
Yes.
Telling you don't do this because
It's not because I actually want to, there's actually a reason why these
Yes,
things
this
are
isn't the
happening.
time for you to act tough. It's a bit difficult to be tough when you're dead. Simply do what you're being told
Yep.
because it is in your interest. So we have a role to play. And these things that we're talking about are things that can come to an end. They can. They can.
Are you seeing us getting to that end?
I can see it. That's what I'm even talking about because I can actually see it.
I'm at that point where I'm thinking, yeah, this is an opportunity. It's a good opportunity, but the opportunity will slip.
No.
It'll come, it'll
we,
go.
No. We cannot let it slip. We cannot let it slip.
What is going to make us not let it slip is if we get hard hit, City.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And I don't want us to get hard hit. That's why I'm
Unfortunately.
saying this is going to come and go.
Unfortunately, the toughest times are the greatest lesson bearers.
If we get to a point where our number of the dead is above the 2008 post-election violence, 2,000 and above, you're talking about, 5,000 people died. Then, now you say, wait. And the 5,000 people died because there was no hospital, there was no... Then now, those questions can emerge thereafter. Without that,
I
I'm
hear
hoping
you.
don't even get there.
I hear you.
Without that,
I
we'll be
hear
like,
you.
Ata America walikufa bwana.
I hear you.
There's
Thi-
nothing special.
I am thinking of a situation where the citizenry, and that involves the good men and women whom we've elected, actually, there are enough Kenyans of goodwill who actually know what to do and can do so. I'm not imagining it, I know. I used to think
So why are they not doing so?
it has not been beneficial to them.
There's no motivation.
There was no profit in it. And the profit turned not for good. The profit became shillings and cents for us. Sorry, billions of shillings. Not,
Yeah,
no
billions.
Cents,
It
billions,
is,
not
yeah.
even millions. I was of the view that nothing could change until the Kibaki government came into being. I was beautifully and wonderfully shocked and amazed. Something like a passport that getting was like bleeding a stone in this country became the simplest thing. You would even be shocked when policemen stop you. You're clearly overspeeding. Even you know you're overspeeding. And they salute you and say, good morning, sir. You're in shock. You ask him,
What's wrong?
Why are you calling me, sir? Said, sir, I'm sorry, but you are overspeeding at this and this place. You are in utter confusion because of politeness. I had to ask one policeman, why are you being so polite to me? He said, well, we're trained to be this way. I said, wait, pause. I got out of the car and asked, you are trained? He said, this is how we are
This is
trained.
how we're trained. This is who we are.
So I had to ask, so what happens to you guys in between?
Yeah.
He laughed and said, I'm afraid I have to book you. I have to this. I told him, yes, but you can also forgive me. Because I'm actually trying to rush. There's a funeral I need to attend. It was true. That's why I'm overspeeding. I started late. And the guy told me, you can go, but please, it's for your own sake.
Stop speeding.
Drive slower. And I drove slowly. The point I'm trying to make is this. Goodwill has been snuffed out because avarice has taken center stage in the ethos of this particular country. It can go. It can go. It's not that I have witnessed in this government that we speak of people who on occasion stand up and you hear them. It's just the voices are snuffed. When we talk about corruption in this media that we belong to, it also took center stage where you would find people aren't doing what they're supposed to do. They're doing what they feel is in their interest. That has also happened. But there are people, I even stand to argue that the vast majority of Kenyans would like to do good, Why am I saying this? Again, in that Kibaki era, man, I saw things. When I say I didn't, people said we are not going to put up with this matatu menace. You know why? One, John Michuki made a stand, and people said we will walk. They volunteered. We will walk if it's this. And they walked, and the industry ilingia line. Then something which never used to happen. You know, people used to rush for matatus. People were queuing. So when someone tells me it can't be done, of course it can be done. Of course it can be done. Right now, you go to get a passport, you are told, come on this day, or they call you. They SMS you, and on that day, it is actually ready.
It can be
Things
done.
are working. It can be done.
That would be the frustrating factor then that would get people to say then in this case we need to then make sure it is, because the possibility of it happening exists. And that's all you need at some point. The realization of the possibility exists. And if it exists, then it can actually become a reality. And we're not talking about something that we're building castles in the sky or saying that, all right, fairy tales live in Wonderland and etc. Here, right here, real life, it can actually happen. And I think about other countries on the continent and I say to myself, there's actually possible that it can happen. Nigeria, a land of 200 million people, can have power. Nigeria, a land that provides power for the entire Niger.
Yes. And other small little, yes.
Can have power.
Yes, it's possible.
That we don't need to give Lister a government contract for the entire year to come and provide generators for its people. Are you kidding me? There's some things that actually don't need to happen. And this is what I'm talking about, the realization that it's doable. And if people understand that this is the way it is supposed to be, that you're not actually supposed to live under Third Mainland Bridge, that you can actually have shelter and that your children can go to school, that you can walk into a medical facility and actually get services because it is your right. And because those who've been put in power over you.
Those are movies.
No. It's possible to
Look,
do.
those are movies.
The possibility exists.
That's the thinking.
Look at what has happened. What has happened right now with COVID. I'll give you an example. Look at what happened right now with COVID in Nigeria. In Onikan, they have built a hospital in a stadium in 2 days.
Yes.
It is possible.
It's
And that's what I'm
doable.
saying, that this has
It's been done.
presented. Absolutely. It's done.
Eric.
This has presented an opportunity for people to see. So these things can actually happen
you know,
in my
Eric,
lifetime.
it's
Absolutely.
possible.
You know, Eric, this same judiciary we speak of, something happened in 2017 that was a landmark. We annulled the presidential election, isn't it? But that's what I'm thinking of. The government of the day huffed and puffed, but we had a re-election.
Yep.
Now,
Said it's okay. We will go back.
just think, if you know the history of this country, where you could be picked up at night, taken to court at night, and jailed, all in the space of a very short time, to the point where this is a civil servant, and because it is an independent unit of the government, they can make an independent decision. These things not can happen, they have happened. We have seen them happen. Let's not obscure the good that we've actually seen happening with what has confronted us and confronts on a daily basis, the negative and the wrong. It is a reality, but it shouldn't take center stage in our minds, because when it does, then even when good happens, you won't see it. It's like you're looking up at the sky, there's a sun, but you say, hey, man, look at those clouds. You say, no, yeah, fine, but the sun is
There's
over
the
there.
sun.
Yeah, but are you seeing that cloud moving towards it? Your focus is on the cloud. That is the mindset we've been conditioned to, where we don't even look and see the good that is actually there. And there is good. It's little, but it exists. Now, we're not talking about an increase of this. We want it to take center stage. Yes. Not at increase, center stage. Yesterday, we were talking to the chairman of a Kenya Pipeline Company. The things that he was saying, to me, are a good sign. This Harambee committee that has been set up, it is a good sign. These are people of good repute. These are people who have good standing in the society. And even if there's any among them, the others will check them, and then there'll be a balance.
Yeah.
Right? But these are people you can trust will do what is required to do. You can trust. Now, these people, we didn't borrow them from Rwanda. They are just Kenyans.
They're ours.
No, we didn't borrow them.
The good thing is that they haven't worked for government yet.
Some of them have.
I
Yet.
hear you
No,
saying,
no,
though.
they're
I
not-
hear you
they're not in
saying that
government now.
No.
Getting
yes.
into government then strips you of all your morality or strips you then of your
No,
ability.
Eric is shaking his head
your
and I agree with
ability
Eric.
to
It
think.
doesn't.
Is it, it
actually-
doesn't?
No, it doesn't.
It appears so.
Eric is saying it does.
It appears
Once
so.
you get into government,
When
then
you
you're
are in
stained.
government, if this committee did not have these individuals, captains of industry, but had, senior PSs
Oh, no,
of
no, no,
government,
please don't
There
go
you
there.
go.
No, please, please.
There
please,
you go.
Please. You're taking me back to the
There you go.
that gloomy picture which I've been moving
if
away
you
from
took
the whole
this
morning.
same
City's-
people,
City's
this same
sitting in
committee,
his rocking chair
appointed
just
them as
look-
PSs, and then a
And
year
I'm
later,
done.
you say, you guys, come and manage this Harambe. You would look at them and, Jen Karu, no way. She's the PS. No. You can't. Phyllis used to be very good when she was in Kenya Association of Manufacturers.
What happened to her?
Aye, what happened to her?
To
Now
join
you're giving her
government.
money, telling her to get money from here and abroad. Yeah. But now here we are. We are saying, well, CEO of Kenya Association of Manufacturers joined this committee, mobilize funds. Mohammed Hersi joined this. James Mwangi joined. CEO of Barclays, CEO of KCB, get into that committee. And you're thinking, it's possible. These guys being in charge, they can mobilize. We can even contribute. I can give my money to these bankers. What is it that we are saying? People get into public service. We don't have trust in anything government.
You see, Eric,
Touch government at any level. And you're like, yeah.
you see the thing is the silver lining.
Mm.
These are Kenyans that can be trusted, or who can be trusted.
Yep.
Yes. And if we have them, there are more. There are others. They're not the only ones.
It's possible.
Yes, it is. It's extremely possible. And the efforts that this committee that was set up with the Anti-Corruption Commission, the DPP's office, the DCI, the Money Laundering Unit.
The multi-agency
Yes,
task force.
that word was eluding me. You've got it.
Just
Thank
think
you.
of MAT.
MAT. Brother, I'm going to think of Matatu. MAT.
The best way to think about it.
Now,
Matatu.
yes. if you think of what they've been trying to do now, imagine if they were injected with, they already have an independence. They were given the funds to do what they're supposed to do. These things that are barriers, these things that are hurdles, if they were removed, can you imagine how quickly we would resolve these things? This issue of money being available, my friend, will be available very quickly because there are people who have money that isn't theirs.
And they are known. And they
And they are known and they also know. It's just brought back immediately.
Look at the United States with all their wahala. All it needed was an executive order. As in, we just need the man to say. Just say, and then we release the money. 2 trillion. Boom. Why do you think that could happen?
What? Releasing the money?
Yeah. Why do you think that could happen? Because there were things that had already been set in place. Everybody had understanding of this is the way in which it is going to be.
Yeah.
There is no story, maybe if we moved. No. It's there. The systems are in place. You don't have to think about which individual was there. No, if that guy was there, then
No,
chances of that fund being there are actually very slim. We don't even know if them. No. It's clear.
We
The
do
money
have
is
those
there.
individuals.
It needs to be done.
Eric, we
Bring
do.
it out.
A man commonly known as Pope, the governor of the central bank, right?
It's
When-
one such individual.
When he says, all right, so the central bank, from that exercise last year, we got this money and we are giving this money to the... People are
Straight.
not thinking, your
Nobody has to ask
those
no
are
questions.
lies.
No.
We're not thinking, it's going to take long before the money central bank releases
Did
cash.
he ask them, let me adjust my coat first? No.
No, let me go and check or let me go and converse with
We are
my
releasing
people
this money.
today.
And he released it. Now, when you think of such individuals, and I'm saying they exist, and these people of goodwill put their efforts together, it's not a question of defeating COVID. The big malaise that we have in this country is impunity that is manifested by our corruption. It can go. It can go.
Can we allow such people to be there to do it?
Eric, that's why this is an opportunity. This opportunity that the government, that the president has wanted to take. If the president, while short here,
Yeah.
declare an emergency, state of emergency, under those laws, he can make very drastic decisions.
This is it.
And
This
he can
is
change
it.
things as he sees.
Change things.
He can change things.
Because
This is an opportunity. He can change things. Change.
Oftentimes it's
Make
been,
Matiang'i his deputy.
He can, whatever he
Call him
can change.
Prime
No,
Minister.
it doesn't matter.
call him whatever you want.
Whatever he wants to do, he can do.
He's okay.
He can do. And Matiang'i, you mentioned him well because that is a man whose effort we have seen and the successes of his efforts we have seen.
He's the Prime Minister. Basically, look, he's the one who's coordinating for.
As I said, we have seen the good that this man has done, and he's also in government.
Yep.
It's when he strays into politics that things begin to go a little off.
Then it becomes
Yes,
great.
yes, because that particular minefield you don't really want to venture into.
He meets the people who are there.
Yes,
The pigs in the sty.
the warthogs.
The warthogs.
Look, you can't overstate this thing, but it is doable.
Yeah.
This country has human resource that, my friend, is almost unparalleled. If we have it in such abundance that we can export it, and it can earn us something called remittance.
This man who's taking over Safaricom, he's worked abroad in big companies, right?
Yes,
He's
yes.
coming back home. We have such people.
There are many.
There are many all over the world.
There are many. We even have some of them who are working as civil servants all over this continent.
Yeah.
There are many. Believe me, if there's one thing that we have in abundance, it's human resource.
I think this presents an opportunity for people to see how badly things have actually been going and then put that against the light and the possibility of how good it can be.
How we can change.
And the middle ground is where people need to come to say, I actually don't want to go back there. And this is where I want to go. And that is going to be the fuel and fodder for the decisions that they make in the future. It has to be. It has to be that, you know what? Back where it was, whereby we get into a situation where we're not even able to tell our head from our tail, we don't want to go back there again.
Yeah.
We want to go to a place where all of these things that we talk about can be provided, can be done, can be given to us as our rights. And once you're on that, when you hit that sweet spot, at that point is when you say, this is the decision I'm going to make for tomorrow. These are individuals we're going to be calling upon. Until we, and I think this is providing a great opportunity for people then to make that decision. And we can't let this one pass us by.
How shall we grasp it? I'm still at that point.
No, but I do agree with you.
It's coming.
I do
yes,
agree
it's-
with
if
you
we don't-
that things
if we
need
don't
to
have a
get
way of
bad.
grasping it.
Unfortunately, things need to get bad, really bad, for then people to see the proverbial light. Unfortunately.
I'm afraid my fairy tale optimism has to come to the fore here.
Yes.
It actually doesn't have to get bad.
Doesn't need to get worse than this.
No, it doesn't.
No, things cannot get bad.
It doesn't. Bad here.
Hey, surely.
You know, we can't actually allow it to get bad because if it gets bad, it'll be horrible. It'll be truly,
The apocalypse.
genuinely horrible. 2007 will be a joke,
Yeah.
a complete joke. We don't want anything.
We cannot
to
allow
be a
it.
joke.
Rays of Hope, this committee, the Harambee Committee by Jane Karuku and the Captains of Industry. Rays of Hope, the committee led by Mutahi Kagwe. Look at the people who stand behind him. You know, people who are appearing like, you know, we have put some thought into this. Maybe they are slow. I still believe that they are very slow in acting, but at least they're doing something. Some rays of hope. But now, how do we combine all these things and make it something that works?
Eric, wisdom is like a baobab tree, you know. And one individual cannot embrace it. And while embracing it, let the discussions continue. Because this one, if you really want to make it work, you ask about the starting point. Let it be a matter of national discourse.
Let it start from there.
Let us start talking about it as a nation.
You remember the gentleman we spoke to the other day, tax expert, Edward Mwachinga.
Yes,
He
I
just
know.
texted me and said, CT is like me today. He's surprisingly optimistic.
He's gotten some of it.
CT, you're surprisingly optimistic today.
I'm not surprisingly optimistic. I am looking at possible solutions, and optimism based on facts and reality is not just empty optimism. I have given reason as to my optimism, and I've given live examples. We have the Anti-Corruption Commission. We have the DCC. We have the DCI. We've seen what they do. The DCI we haven't had in our studios, but the gentlemen, we've had them, we've spoken to them. We have listened to them and we have heard what they've had to say. Solutions can be found and they don't have to be borrowed. We have the solutions within us. It's the will to make the right decisions and to act on it.
Good morning. It's 8 o'clock.
Sugar and spice and everything
Spice up your life.
All right, Bunyala roundabout is a mess today, unfortunately. Everybody's trying to get to one place at the same time, decided to use the roundabout. That's going to open up a little bit because police are trying to control traffic there. So, you know what? Every other road is free. So if you find yourself stuck, you can actually do a roundabout and go somewhere else because there's not much anywhere else. You know, Uhuru Highway to University Way, very, very free this morning. I think we've counted 3 cars right now. So not much in terms of traffic on the roads. Mombasa Road, Thika Road, coming round. The eastern bypasses and southern bypasses have actually seen a famine in terms of vehicles. Not much happening there today or any other day for this week, for that matter. Anything out of the ordinary, in this case being where you do find a hold up, let us know and we can inform people adequately.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the
morning,
chair,
Mombasa,
seasoned
87.9.
journalist,
How are you
news
doing
hound,
wherever
a
you
man
are?
who believes
in
in
Kisumu,
punching up,
102.5,
not down.
96.0 Nakuru,
This is the
96.7
Situation
in Eldoret,
Room.
Nyeri, 90.9, and 97.7 in Malindi. We live stream this show on www.spicefm.co.ke, on Spice FM KE, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So, CT, the optimistic man, was, waxing all optimism in the last hour, saying it's doable. We can get there. As we, conclude on that discussion. How do we get? I keep asking this question.
Eric, let me respond.
I'm not going to stop asking.
Don't stop. Let me respond as best as I can. This optimism is actually what I would call the flip side of realism.
Mm-hmm.
The dire situations we're in is one aspect of our reality, but what you're calling the optimism is also the other side of this reality.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing I'm saying that's not available locally or can be done or we've seen done or we're even seeing done. It's a reality, not just optimism. Now, when you juxtapose it against what we've been looking at and that is that which is negative in our society, the idea of a possible solution looks very dim. It almost looks impossible because, again, the conditioning has been this government really doesn't mean well for its citizens. There's nothing good it seems to be doing. And we're saying let's balance it a little bit. There's something that can be done. This decision, this Harambee Committee, if you look at it, decision 1, when the Constitution empowered certain institutions and made them independent, my friend, it doesn't look like it was a big thing, but that was really it. We actually provided with us an escape clause, something that will enable us to actually move forward if we need to move. If someone who is in government and is in an independent commission or is in an independent body of government, someone can't threaten you with sacking because they actually just can't sack you.
They can't sack you, yeah.
Exactly. They can't. So when you ask about the power, I'm saying we actually have it. You don't have to look for it. It's already there. It's a question of actioning it. Now, the optimism you ask, where do we start? Let's talk about us as the media. The one thing that we do well is what we should continue doing well. Informing people and continuously and consistently doing so that they get this message. We point out to things we don't think are right. Let's juxtapose by saying, but you know something? If this thing which is good is actually actioned, and then we say, actioned this way, we'll get better.
It gets us there.
Yes. But again, if it's wrong, we say this one's actually wrong. But if you look at this one here, it's right. And so that even amidst this panic-driven situation we're in, there's not just a ray of hope, but people realize actually normal life actually exists and it can go on despite all this.
Can you pick some callers?
Please.
John in Nyandarua. Good morning, John.
Yes, morning. How are you guys?
Fine, thanks, John.
Yes, doing very well because you're giving us very cautionary details, and we are taking care of ourselves.
You're doing well.
Good.
Thank you very much, John.
Yeah. Now, I wanted to discuss about this Harambee committee you are talking about.
Yep.
I don't think it was necessary at this time. The president should have thought a bit better together with his cabinet.
How so?
Because what they should have done is to take care of the country collectively. For example, there's one thing they did wrong: the tax relief that they gave to those who contribute to the pay as you earn. This did not contribute to the country, overboard, to the entire country. It only assisted those who have. Otherwise, those who don't have would not receive anything from that relief. So my idea is they should have discussed with countries like China and other countries that have given us loans to give us a relief for at least 6 months. Then this money would have been used used to contribute to the entire public. For instance, say if they thought of giving 3,000 shillings to every citizen every month for at least 3 months, every month this would translate to at least 120 billion, which is peanuts in comparison to what is stolen, in comparison to what they pay in terms of loans. Or rather, what we contribute from taxes, we can afford to give food to the people of Kenya as a population. Because if, for instance, we have a population of about 40 million, and we gave 3,000 shillings to every citizen, this would translate to 120 billion every month. So if they did it for 3 months, they would be in a position to give us the lockdown that we require in order to avoid the spread of this disease.
But
John,
assuming that the conversations with the people that we owe is ongoing, what is wrong with this other committee mobilizing funds as well?
Because these funds will not contribute to the entire population. It will only contribute, whatever they get would contribute to a certain population.
How?
They will just say it is Talpana, it is, and the people are suffering everywhere.
But how do you know that?
I know that because even in the area that I live now, people are suffering financially. Because some of them have come home, they are jobless. So eventually, if a total lockdown was to take place, I'm telling you, it will be chaotic.
Okay.
So the government should think of how they can give food to everybody. If, for instance, they take the records of this Huduma thing, and maybe the population is about 40 million, let them give everyone 3,000 shillings, regardless of whether you are earning or not, for at least 3 months. And it is possible.
But John, it's still going back to that Harambee committee. So the Harambee committee is getting money from everybody. The issue of yes, it's getting money. It's contributing. It's a Harambee. It's from all Kenyans, from anybody in the world who would like to help the country, and all NGOs in the world who would like to contribute towards that kitty. They'll all put the money there. Basically, the issue of salaries is starting from what the issue of salaries in that statement says is the salary that the president, his deputy, his cabinet, the governors, the speakers, and the chief justice, the salaries that they've said, this is the pay cut that I'm taking. That money that could have been paid to the president this month goes straight into that kitty. Then
right?
John in Nyandarua, hopefully this committee will give us a pay bill number. John in Nyandarua can contribute a shilling. Eric in Nairobi can contribute a shilling. A Kenyan in the diaspora can contribute. An NGO working in the country or outside the country can contribute. And then all that money now will be looked at. We have this money. How can we help the country? Maybe that money will go into feeding the country or giving 3,000 shillings to everybody like you're suggesting.
But But the best thing is we think of giving food to everybody
Yep.
through our own taxes. I think that's the best thing.
Okay.
Because if we were to defer our loan obligations, if the government were to defer the loan obligations, I think we could save a lot. We even stopped contributing to counties because we should, stop every development project right now. Because this is a crisis. Whatever we have should be directed to the people.
John, what I'm hearing, some very fine ideas and excellent ideas. And if I read what the government is doing, I would argue that you and the government are thinking alike.
We are thinking alike.
Yes, that
about the people.
The wheels of government tend to move slowly, and I think we're encouraging them that this is not a time to move at their usual speed. They need to move a lot faster than they are used to moving.
Exactly, a lot faster.
Yes, but your ideas are excellent, and they make very clear economic sense, and they're not even complicated. But as Eric is putting it, this committee that has been set together, this is the sort of committee. Remember now, it is private sector, government putting their heads together. This is a good situation where now things can even move. We hope with the speed that the private sector moves. And since the government has the capacity to coordinate and do these things, that they will do their bit. And they have the structure to actually ensure this thing cascades to the level that we want it. This is the sort of marriage that ought to bring out lovely offsprings.
John, thank you very much. Let me pick Eric in Mombasa. Eric, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
How are you doing? Thank you very much, and karibu to the Situation Room.
Yes, thanks very much for letting me today to speak to the space event.
Please switch off your radio, Eric.
Okay, sir.
That's better.
My question is, with this waiver that the president gave the citizen, that is the people whose names are CRB, was there any kind of discrimination that maybe there are a certain number of, let's say, people who are supposed to be considered, or it was across the board? Because there are some banks that are telling us that there are some specific things that they are looking at.
Okay. Just Eric, just repeat the last part of your question.
Okay. My question is about the issue of the CRB. The citizen who wants to access the loans at the bank and their names are at the CRB. There are some banks that are now telling us that there are specific things that they are looking at before they facilitate your loan. So my question is, was there any kind of a category or discrimination, or were there some other issues, or it was just, however, for everybody who wants to access the loan to the bank and have issues with the CRB?
Okay. So it is asking whether everybody who gets off the CRB is it everybody who gets off the CRB, right?
I think let me respond with something that I know and understand. Even in a situation such as this one, unless we suspend by some edict that has been pronounced yet that all even banking procedures have been suspended, the banks are going to go through the processes they normally go through. This is what they do. If the government has said that there is going to be some leniency, the government can say so, but the implementation is still left with the banks, as far as I understand. Because what we were told was go and talk with your banks. So if it is an individual, I believe they need to go and have this conversation with their banks and see what the bank can come up with. It wasn't blanket that this is going to happen and the banks will automatically give you money. Banks never automatically give anybody money. They never do.
It'll have to be something different. Indeed. The Situation Room continues. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. 0719-012-600. Any comments and questions that you may have? 0719-012-600. Post your comments as well on Facebook and Twitter, Spice FM KE. You can also post your comments on YouTube, Spice FM KE. At now 8:15. Let's take a look at weather, and then we come back with the conversation.
classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM.
"19 degrees in Nairobi today. See mostly cloudy conditions. A chance of rain in the afternoon, though, with highs of 25 and lows of 16. In Nyeri at 18 degrees is mostly cloudy. Thunderstorms are likely to show up in the afternoon with highs of 25 and lows of 16. In Nakuru, it's partly cloudy at 17 degrees and chance of rain in the afternoon with highs of 27. It's 16 degrees in Eldoret and partly cloudy through the day with highs of 24. 20 degrees in Kisumu and mostly sunny, and we will see highs of 30 and lows of 19. Malindi is mostly sunny this morning at 29 degrees, chance of showers in the afternoon, then with highs of 32 and lows of 28. In Mombasa at 28 degrees is mostly sunny, 33 the high and lows of 27 with showers in the afternoon. Take a look then into East Africa and Kampala at 22 degrees, showers in the afternoon, then with highs of 27 and lows of 21. Dar es Salaam is hazy and foggy this morning at 27 degrees, giving way to rain in the afternoon and expected thunderstorms with highs of 32 and lows of 26. Johannesburg is rainy this morning at 16 degrees and it will go through the day with highs of 22 and lows of 14. And finally in Lagos at 27 degrees, it's partly cloudy, highs of 34 and lows of 26.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
I hope you're at home. If you don't need to leave, stay wherever you are. If you need to leave, we wish you all the best. Make sure that you observe all the measures that have been given by the government. Key among them is ensure that you keep sanitizing as regularly as possible, using running water and soap or using an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Don't touch surfaces if you don't have to. If you do touch surfaces, keep sanitizing your hands. Avoid touching your face, especially the men. This is mouth, ears, and nose.
I was just touching my face. You said that actually.
Yeah, I was looking at you as you did that. You reminded me what I needed to say. Kenya is, at this point where the CS for Health has said we're getting into a crucial phase in our battle against coronavirus. In the next 10 days, if we do what we ought to do, what we've been told to do, what we can do, we are going to fight it. If we don't do this, it's going to overwhelm us.
Interestingly enough, without realizing it, the responsibility largely lies on the population here. And there's only so much that the government or government bodies can do, even the multi-agency task force, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, remembering something so vital that this virus doesn't move itself unless it has a host, right? It's not just lingering somewhere in the air and saying, okay, where shall I go today? No, humans, in this case, actually move it. So, I mean, I just heard different conversations on social media all over the place and hearing people say the things that they're saying without the realization that, you know what, guys, we are the ones who will move this thing. So by the time we're being asked to stay home and do other things like wash your hands, etc., it's to stop it from moving at the speed at which it ordinarily would if we were all over the place.
Yeah.
right? So at the end of the day, it's the containment is what is being sought after
Cut
here.
the trees, reduce the movement of the monkey.
Yeah.
It stops hopping from one person to the other.
This is the thing.
We've got to stop being in close contact with one another.
And
So-
then to hear other things like, they're asking us not to move so that I won't be able to eat. Whereas that is a consequence of this non-movement. It is not the focus.
Yep.
The focus in this case is to stop the virus from moving. So we can get to a place of containment. And then after that, we get to see a lot more people then actually, surviving, being healed. And then now it doesn't have as much prevalence as it ordinarily would.
If you don't move, the likelihood of getting the virus is limited.
Absolutely.
If you don't have the virus and you don't move, then definitely you will remain in that state of not having it.
Yep.
And alive.
If you move and somebody who has the virus moves and you come into contact with that person, you will
You
not
get it.
know they have the virus. They may also not know, but there's a likelihood that you will get it.
Exactly.
So you're not moving is actually your primary safeguard.
Yes.
It's what keeps you safe.
And we've been asking the question, often that with all of this, the whole economy of it, etc., what can I do? That
You can do,
right
and
there
that
can
only
do.
you can do.
Only you can do. And then be able to spread the word to other people within your circles around that this is actually what you can do. All this traipsing up and down, party hopping, blah, it's not necessary.
So let me give you a scenario and tell me, what would this person do? Somebody is leaving work at 5. There's a curfew that's going to take effect at 7. And they ought to be home by 7, right? So you go find the only matatu that's available. You board that matatu, and everybody else comes and finds that's the only matatu that's available at that time. And you're looking at the time. So matatu starts feeling beyond the capacity that we've been told, 50%. So instead of a 24-seater having 15 people, it starts having 20 people, 21, 22, 23, 24. What do? You got in there on time. You boarded the matatu. It didn't have, it wasn't overloaded beyond what has been recommended capacity right now. But because of this ongoing
rush.
situation, this happens. What do? Do you walk out of the matatu?
That's a catch-22, no?
No, it
Complete.
isn't.
What do you do, City?
No, it isn't. I walk out.
And then
Wait for the next one.
there's no next one. You've been there for the last 30 minutes. No other matatu has
It's only
come.
30 minutes. I would start panicking when it gets to around 6:15. Then I'd panic and consider. Then I'd look for the nearest police station.
That's what I was going to say. Then you look for the nearest police station, or
and
you
tell
look for the
them,
nearest
this is the
cop
situation
on
that
patrol
I'm
and say,
in.
I've been here
Nimekosa.
since 5 o'clock. I have not been able to get, so
I've been
how about
waiting
we
over
stand
there.
here together until I get another one?
What do I do now?
Yeah.
Because if you find me this bus stop at 7, yes.
But as the clock ticks, City, the chances of you getting a matatu are going to 0. Because after 7 o'clock, there will be no matatu.
You asked me a question. I would rather step out of that matatu.
And then what?
I've just
You
told
still
what
want to
I'll do.
go home. So you go to a police
I'll
station.
go to the police station.
And then what do you want the police to
The
do?
police will be able to commandeer a car to take you home.
Look at what we saw. We saw the pictures. Was it Friday? Yeah, we saw, and this is the thing, I guess. We saw some good pictures of even police themselves being able to help out. Because at some point, yeah, we've talked about the brutality and everything. But at the end of the day, they're human beings to be able to understand. And we often say, tell your story before somebody has an opportunity to do it for you. So here you are stuck in a matatu, right, with more people than should be. And the likelihood of you, if you're in the space with somebody who may have symptoms, the likelihood of you being infected is quite high, right? So I think that's the thing. You would rather, at this point, we'll talk about practical solutions to quagmire situations. Here is one where you can get down and say, look, man, I've been here since 5 o'clock. If you find that more and more people are doing that, I've been here since 5 o'clock or 4:30, you've not been able to get vehicles. Or more, it is going to 7 o'clock. We've not been able to get
Police
a
are going to
vehicle.
call NYS and bring a bus? What do you expect the
But
police
you've
are going to
taken,
do?
that's what I'm saying, you've taken yourself to them to
Right.
be able to say, you guys are the ones who are clamping down on this thing. We've not been able to get. Rather than
And
me
chances are
milling
you won't be alone.
And now, exactly, you're not going to be by yourself. Instead
So-
of me milling about the streets, waiting or doing whatever
No.
for you to come and
Go to the
now
police.
arrest me, let me bring myself to you and say, look, before you come, I brought myself to say, look, I've not been able to get a vehicle. And who says you have to go to a police? They're on the street anyway. Go and stand next to the guy and say, look, we've been waiting. Nothing has happened.
Yeah,
What do you suggest? What do you suggest that I do?
Well,
I stay here
under
with
the
you and let's
circumstances,
So
patrol together.
the best thing is, get out of this matatu.
get out of that matatu.
Even if you say, all right, so we are only 24, it's between
Get
here.
out of
I
that
am not-
matatu.
I'm going to,
If there are 15 already and you walk out, let the 15 travel. Eric, I grew up in Mombasa. And even when you had matatus around the country filling to capacity, the point where you didn't know whether you're standing or whether you've been suspended into air.
Yep.
A matatu would stop. The prospective passenger would look in and say, I'm not getting in, it's full. Continue.
Even Njai.
Yeah, they would say it. And you'd continue. They don't just look and say, no, image. Go. Meaning, they said, oh, ustarabu. No. They understood. This vehicle is meant to carry this number of people. I'm not standing. You go. There will be another one. The point is, you have to consider your health.
First and foremost.
That one
Right now,
trip
yes.
that you're making
Could
is
be the one.
Could be the one that costs you. Don't bother. The police may have been known to beat people. No one has died yet. They just beat you.
Yeah.
If you go to them, the likelihood of that happening will not be there. And if you ask me, this beating that police beat, what do you think is behind it? That they're just brutal and that they just want to thump people to smithereens? I don't think so.
Well, individually, yes.
No.
Collectively, no.
In this circumstance, if you ask me, it's benchmarking. They figured if we do not put our people in line and they understand the seriousness of this thing, we're going to have a problem in our hands.
So they must know we mean business from day one.
Yeah, the only way we figure these people, I'm not saying it is right, I'm just explaining it.
Right.
The only way these people are going to understand that we're serious is you are going to get in line.
So this explains the difference between Friday and Monday.
Yes. I think you've got where I'm going. Benchmark. You are going to do what we tell you, and when we tell you to stand, you stand. We tell you to sit. If we tell you to lie down, you will lie down. And if you don't, we have an incentive. It's called a cane.
And you've seen it.
And it will meet
you've
some
tested.
part of your anatomy that doesn't particularly like that interaction.
Wow. Well, you can also send in your questions on Twitter or Facebook to Dr. Mercy Korir, Spice FM KE on Twitter, Spice FM KE on Facebook. We'll be speaking with Dr. Mercy Korir at 9 o'clock, where she can respond to any queries that you may have. One of them, of course, I saw somebody asking yesterday. So you've gone, we're talking about how this virus is being transmitted, right? Mm-hmm. So somebody coughs. Let's say they don't cough into their elbow, they cough into their palm of their hands, and then they walk into a banking hall, they touch the counter of the banking hall, they leave the virus, right? Mm-hmm. If you come and place your handbag on that banking hall, do you walk out with the virus?
This is the question.
Yeah. So some of those questions, so we'll ask Dr. Mercy that question. I mean, are other objects also carrying this virus?
That's true.
Is it being transmitted from object to object, or is it only from human hands or body parts to objects, or from mouth to object?
And then another question I think is one that we'll pass through is that, so now if people are self-isolating, working from home, staying at home kind of thing, and nobody's really leaving the house, then do you need to continue cleaning the surfaces and things like this? If nobody's coming in and nobody's going out, do you need to continue this cleaning that we're talking about? If nobody's leaving, nobody's bringing anything in, and we know that it's carried by humans, so why then do we need to continue cleaning? That's a question. I think it's a good one, though. It might seem obvious, but maybe it's not so obvious in terms of an answer. Right?
Is it obvious, really?
Is it?
I'm not sure it's obvious.
It's not.
No. It's not obvious. So yeah, send your questions to Spice FM KE on Facebook, Spice FM KE on Twitter, at Dr. Mercy Korir. You can also tag her directly. When you speak to her at 9 o'clock, she'll be able to respond to many of these questions. There are a lot of other things that are happening around the country, and we're looking at them shortly. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Remember, you can join the conversation 0719-012-600. That's 0719-012-600. There's somebody on the line who's being processed. So as you wait for him, what other questions have you come across?
Yes, another one is, again, that if you've been infected and you have recovered, does your body then become immune so that the virus cannot touch you again? Is this theory true? A lot of people are dealing with,
we're still coming back to that.
Yeah, we're still coming to that one because it's interesting, because she also says that it's possible that a lot of people may have this and don't present with symptoms. Is it possible then that I could have been healed and nobody really knows?
Okay. And somebody has asked a question that I think CT you can also shed light on the comparative statistics between HIV spread and the coronavirus spread. All right. I guess they're looking at, within a span of this long, globally, the number of people getting infected the terms that you guys use.
The analogy that is doing the rounds is the spread with the comparison between malaria and coronavirus. But there are many similarities. Remember, in this very same show, we have repeatedly spoken about the similarities. Coronavirus, virus. HIV, virus. All right? If you want to go further, Ebola, virus. All right? And the other viruses. Flus, viruses. Okay? The similarity is this. Up until recently, when we had the stem cell replacement operations that are happening in the UK, no one could claim to have had a cure for any viral infection or any viral outcome. And even that one is still in its testing stages. It hasn't been rolled out for you to say that it's now something that everybody can do. It's still being selective, it's still being tested. The thing about the HIV virus, the main mode of transmission was through sexual contact. It wasn't airborne. But socially speaking, this was something you more or less had to look for. It didn't come to you. This particular virus comes to you. It's not sexually transmitted. It comes to you by touch. Someone sneezes, someone coughs, the droplets that leave surfaces and survive there as a residue for some hours. You get in touch with them, you touch an opening in your body, your eye, your mouth, your nose, you are likely to get infected. What is surprising is the speed with which this particular virus spreads and the discriminatory nature it has when it comes to people who are supposedly older or people who they say have pre-existing conditions. Okay. Uniquely, the HIV virus, if you looked at it, the people it seemed to have really targeted, not even necessarily the old, but people who are of productive age. So in terms of economic havoc, it actually denied many countries of very able-bodied individuals who were yet to contribute their best to their particular economies. Because if you look at many communities who are ravaged by HIV, the people you found remaining were the very elderly and the young. Those in between are the ones who had gone. Now, the truth of the matter is that in its wake, HIV left, the discussions range from 32 to 36 million people dead. It's a large number. We don't need to wait to get there. If we look at the progression of this particular virus, remember that was over years. You're talking about something close to 20 years.
Yeah.
This one, in the space of 3 months, people are
heading to a
dying.
million.
Yes, people are dying at a rate that is alarming. If you look at the countries where people are really dying in large numbers. Now, this is the thing you need to watch. They are dying in large numbers. You can talk percentage and say, well, it's only 10% of those who are infected.
Population. But still, what
yes,
numbers?
those numbers are
10%.
alarming.
Yeah.
10% of a high number.
Yes, alarming. Remember, other deaths still occur. Other things that happen still happen. But now, deaths that are being contributed or are being said to have been contributed by the virus are alarming. Many.
Yeah.
So that is alarming. But equally true, people are recovering. And they recover and they get onto normalcy. With HIV, you never stop being HIV positive.
Yeah.
Even if there is no indication that you have the virus, if your viral load is low to the point that it can't even be detected by the most sensitive of tests. You are still HIV positive. But just so that people can understand the similarity, it's like anyone who lives in a tropical climate where there's malaria. We are told the parasites never really go away.
So you kind of walk around with
yes,
it.
the existence is what perhaps provide part of your immunity. But it also means that if you get bitten, your body has a prepared reaction to it.
Yeah.
And that existence. So we live with these pathogens. We do. The comparisons can continue. If it's not checked, bottom line, it kills you. That's a similarity. Another similarity, it can be checked.
Good. 25 minutes to 9 o'clock. Let's take a look at traffic.
Stream your favorite
Not much updates still coming your way, and the problems that we see are that fares have still continued to be increased. Still very clear on most roads within the city, from Mombasa Road to Thika Road and all around. We don't have much problems concerning traffic today, so there you don't have to worry about. Of course, anything does change. We'd like to hear from you. Spice FM KE on Twitter. Let us know what it is that you see. But for now, I think you're good wherever it is that you might be going.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
So, lest we forget, the other things that are still happening in the country. Other diseases are still, killing people in the country. We still have locusts in the country. Where are the locusts today?
Let me ask a question. Did they leave where they were before?
Yeah. They've been moving. What they were doing, they're still doing. They enter the country from one end, they move, they ravage farms, they lay eggs, the eggs hatch, those hatchlings,
They move on, but the hatchlings remain.
New ones come up.
The state says it will end the spread of locusts in the next 2 months. The Ministry of Agriculture's crop department said Monday that 17 out of the 27 affected counties are still menaced by the fast-moving insects that first hit Mandera and Wajir counties last December. We heard from the Food and Culture and Agriculture Organization that it's likely that we'll see more swarms in May and June because of the extended rain that then would be in the region. And the region we talk about East Africa, Horn of Africa, and to say that because of those rains, it's likely that the locusts, like you said, are not going anywhere. The normal pattern of these swarms was then to go from country to country, region to region. And once they were able to decimate everything, then they would hop off, literally, somewhere else. In this case, they've not gone. Because of the extended rain, there's really no reason to. So they would eat up the little vegetation that was then available. And then the more rain that would come, you have more shrubbery coming up, they would eat that too. And so they figure, okay, this place is nice because food keeps coming. There's really no need for them to go anywhere. And so what we saw in Kenya is that of the 27 counties that have been affected, we had, I don't know if it's called a reinfestation, because they would then now come back to where they had left from Mandera to Wajir. They then came back, and that's what we see. So there was a 5-day training workshop. I'm sure you like that, CT. And the workshop was revolving around, locust biology and ecology and surveys and mapping and control and use of the pesticides to make sure that, okay, what are we going to be able to do? And as a result of this workshop, then they realized or found out that we can actually take care of this thing. And in 2 months, they should not be with us anymore. And after this, the locust invasion that is still with us now would
2
then
months
be
is
taken
what?
care
We're
of.
in April.
We're in April, so by
June,
when the rain stop,
they
go. They would then go. So
you know what? We've had them since November last year.
Yes.
We're talking about 8 months of locusts in the country, just moving around and about
At will.
In Tana River, at least 3,000 farmers spread in 35 villages have suffered the latest locust foray. This is, Tana River Agriculture CEC, Wanajuma Hiribai, said the swarms move in a very confusing manner. For now, we've mapped 3 breeding spots where county officers are spraying to minimize their multiplication. This is, and we forgot about it. Yet we hadn't done much even when before coronavirus arrived, and we had the opportunity to focus our attention on dealing with this.
Yeah, there was some funding that was coming in. I think that kind of just got swept under the carpet in terms of how that was coming in to help to fight against the invasion.
It wasn't coming in. It was
already here.
No, it was definitive. The moment there was funds, it was definitive, was coming, this conversion stopped.
That was it.
Have you had anything since?
Remember also, global transportation has been affected. If we are importing many of these things that we need to fight not corona, but locusts with, and now there's no movement.
Eric, locusts were last year. there was no coronavirus.
That was last
These
year.
conversations were taking place long before. Long before even
The
China.
warning came many
Long
months.
before the issue of this
September.
came long before. We didn't even know there's a place called Wuhan.
Yeah, for real. You didn't know Wuhan existed.
No, we didn't even
We
know.
didn't. We
No.
Yes,
didn't.
Hubei, we didn't know. These are things that were with us long before any of these things. Long before.
So when you talk about, going to help the country come out of the ravages of coronavirus, we should also talk about helping the country come out of the impact of the locusts. Because this is going to impact heavily on our food security.
Oh, it has already. I mean, we're looking at what they would have called reserves. And then we had Monsieur Noah Rekesa tell us that, in terms of reserves, sorry, there's nothing.
There's no reserve.
So whereby, and again, unfortunately,
We are importing
go
from
into-
Brazil.
Yeah. And then
And
we go
yet-
into June, July, August, where there's bound to
Don't
be
even
famine
go
in this
there.
country.
As he's saying this, farmers in his neck of the woods are telling them they have crops they don't know what to do with. So which is which? Which is which? And this is a story we've heard before.
If it ain't one thing, it's the other.
Yes, when we're being told we are again importing from some other country that had a bumper crop which they're going to dump into the sea. By the way, when they say importing, don't think that these are crops that these people were keeping for reserve. They don't need them.
They were doing away with them.
Yes,
They were
to
selling.
No, sometimes
were giving
they
away.
sometimes they give it, my brother, because to stabilize their own market, there's too much. They give it. If you don't, they'll dump it in the sea. These people of ours are clever enough, so all you're doing is paying for transportation.
For free stuff.
Yeah, it's free.
And then you come and sell it to them.
And then you tell us you bought it for this price. Even if you bought it, the truth is it's still cheap over there.
Yeah.
It's like this story of sugar. Sugar is the one byproduct that some countries can give you for free. This sugar that we like used to carry, it can be given for free. Yes.
Sukari ya chai.
And then you'll be told it's being sold because we use it. Let me not divert. The truth of the matter is this. We had farmers in the North Rift up in arms over this issue of maize not very long ago. It was real. Even the senators went there and they were told off and then spoken to. They had maize. The National Cereals Board wasn't buying their maize. They were importing. This is, again, undiluted nonsense. What? So when now we're being told again there's no food, same sentence, next, we're being told, actually, we have more maize than we know what to do with.
Which one is it?
Why are we importing what we have? So these games haven't stopped. So it isn't so much a question of what we need to do. It is a question of the mindset that we need to have. The mindset seems to be one of pillaging. Okay? Anyone who is, it looks like when you are appointed to be an official in the government,
Opportunity.
you are given, the part of your training involves watching a movie on piracy. Okay? So you understand all the techniques that are available for pillaging, so you don't miss anything out. I mean, how do we, even at the height of the coronavirus, how are we having this discussion? Something that's threatening the lives of the citizens. Then we are still talking about maize. On the one hand, we want to import. On the one hand, we're being told we have plenty.
We have maize.
What are we talking about? We have a glut of milk. What is this?
The government refused to buy maize from farmers at a certain price. Remember, the farmers were insisting. All the input that has gone into growing this
that
crop.
input is sold to them by the government.
Yes.
It's interesting because
I can
we
only
just saw
sell
the-
this thing
At this price.
At this price. The government said, no way. Now the government is going to import at almost double that same price.
And when they say almost double, it doesn't mean that that's what they're buying it at. Please understand that. That is a value that has been padded properly.
It's unfortunate that there's still so many things running amok when it comes to then looking in the light of corona, but there's still things. It's kind of like a computer, and you have different programs
You have
still
things
running,
still running
in the background. So it's the computer is not able to perform at optimum.
Background apps
because
chewing
there's-
your battery.
Yeah, chewing.
And
It's
your
chewing
data.
your battery and your data all at the same time. So then you have to ask yourself, okay, you know what? Unfortunately, by the time corona is over, because it will end. Right?
Yep.
It will finish. Whatever it leaves in its wake, we do not know.
Yep.
But it is going to end. The sad thing is that we're going to start playing catch up.
People in
On
one part of the country
so-
will be coming out of corona, another part of the country will be coming out of locusts.
And out of flooding.
People of Tana River may not know anything about corona. They may not get corona, and we pray that they don't. But then they'll still be thinking,
They'll
all
be
right,
dealing
so
with flooding.
we have nothing. We floods came, locusts came. People of Baringo, the same. People of those three counties that were hard hit, the entry points, Mandera, Wajir, and Garissa, hard hit. They'll be saying, look,
And lest we forget,
our livestock.
even when the directive came from the presidency that schools will be shut, that was in March. There were some children who had not gone back to school since December.
Yep.
All right? And for several reasons. The main one being that the access road to these schools had been destroyed by floods. All right? That had not been sorted out. West
Some of them,
Pokot
their schools
came out of
had
a
been swept
landslide.
away.
Yeah. West Pokot, the entire county, came out of a landslide. Or maybe didn't still come out, but was still grappling with the effects of landslide that happened in September, October. Schools did not open. You had people then who were squatting, who had to then go to higher ground. Squatting where?
In schools.
In schools.
In schools.
So people had not gone back to school as it is. This happened in March. So when children and universities and such closed, people are wondering, what are you even talking about? We never went back after December. We never went back after the long holiday. So you can imagine we're going to be done with Corona and then we come back into that situation. Have these schools been sorted out?
Come back into August.
In October, we were told that by the 31st, we would receive a report about the state of schools in the country and be told that, such and such would happen. Some schools, again, were closed and they were not
In a
allowed to
crackdown,
operate
yes.
in a crackdown because they wanted to find out and make sure that the infrastructure was in place and they were doing what they were supposed to do. Whoa, we didn't hear anything. We don't know what is happening.
If you want to take
They
that
didn't tell
issue of
us.
schools to its logical conclusion, start with the supervision and survey that was done of schools that were of substandard quality and the recommendations. It wasn't months. They had been given years prior.
2014.
Yes.
specifically.
Yes. Specifically 5 years prior. Nothing had been done. So it's a long history, and we're still saying this is a chance for us to change all that.
It's an opportunity to change
Change all that.
all
There's
of
a
this.
lot, man. I mean,
It is. Eric, you're right, it is.
changing. What is it that we need to do to change?
What we need to do, these people who are in offices, this unbridled greed that seems to dictate and maneuver their entire processes of functioning.
Nothing is changing them.
They're the
Sweetie.
ones who can change.
But nothing is changing
Or
them.
there'll be consequences to pay, all right.
There has to be something that motivates them to change.
Remember what I was saying, that the picture that I went into La La Land for, the striped pajamas, I like that picture, all right? Where you fund the agencies that deal with crime and corruption in this country well so that they can do what they're supposed to do. You fund our judiciary so that there's no excuse of them saying we don't have enough funds. You remove these bottlenecks. What then do you have? A situation where you play these games, you're taken to court and you go in. And then have a specific court that deals with corruption, specific, so that those things are fast-tracked. These high-profile cases we talk of, give them priority. Put men and women of integrity there so we know. You go to that court. If you're innocent, indeed you're innocent.
You're innocent.
If you're not,
You will face the consequences of whatever it is you've done as prescribed by the law. We will know that things are changing and these are things that can be done. We have set up special courts before. These aren't new things. It can be done again. All these things can be homegrown, they can be done. And it's not as though I'm the one who has the ideas. I'm just going by what I've seen being done in this country. It's
think-
been done.
I think we can also make the change that we want, right? So those structures, and depending on the structures to come into place and to work perfectly, is one thing. But also forcing change at our local levels is also another big thing, because we can do that and we ought to do that. For instance, knowing that this is a person who, local leadership, this person is a chief, he was supposed to have distributed maize to people who are needy and he didn't distribute that maize to the people who are needy. Basically just deal with him. Well, not kill him or anything, but make sure that he's ostracized in the community. Let him feel the impact. Let him feel the impact of what he has done to his fellow villagers. Don't attend his harambes. Don't speak to him. Let him walk alone in the street. Let nobody say hi to him. He walks into your shop. You tell him, no, sorry, I cannot sell to you. Let's deal with them that way.
Eric, you know what you're saying sounds simple, but it's actually very effective and true. I have seen in my neck of the woods individuals the community felt whenever part of them didn't participate in the activities and there's a funeral back home.
Yep.
And if you come from one of our wonderful cities in this country home, nobody moves a finger. You may see them in the compound,
But
no one is helping you with anything.
you do everything that you need to
And
do.
if you want them to do it, and some, even if you want to pay them, they still
They
refuse.
say, they say
They
no.
say no.
Traditionally, you know, African traditions and customs, we had was a very clear check and balance. Shaming. Very clear.
You're shunned.
You're completely
You're
just shunned.
ostracized.
Yeah.
And you stick by the rules because you know you do not want to face that consequence.
And you know the
It's
consequence
worse
is
than
passed
even
on to your
taking you
family.
jail. Yes.
This is true. One of the most famous books that we read, was The Scarlet Letter. And that story was, of a young woman who was said to be a witch. And so she had to, wear this scarlet A.
This garment that actually distinguished you
So, yes,
Everybody can
everybody
tell.
as
knew.
an evil person.
In that case, whether it was in her case, she was actually not a witch. However, the effects and the consequences of having to wear this garment all the time was that people then did not want to associate with you because they saw that there was a connection between yourself and something evil, something wrong. So it actually does work as a measure to say that, if we decide we're not going to associate
We
with
just
you
make
because
sure
of the
that
things
this
that
is
we
it.
do, we've put you in the sin bin, as it were, and you
Yes.
stay there for as
And
long
you
as
stay
you
there.
need to,
Do you
while the
know-
game continues, my friend.
Do you know, you're talking about stigma, right? In 1954, there's a man I was in America called McCarthy. McCarthyism was where they wanted to weed out communists. Now, there's an author by the name of Arthur Miller who wrote a book called The Crucible. Now, he juxtaposed the 54 situation to Salem in the 17th century.
The witch trials.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To read the stories to understand how it is that a process that is actually meant to weed out the evil in society could be turned wrongly, and it could victimize very innocent people, and innocent people suffered. But the point that Eric is making is a valid one, because if we don't shun, you may remember a time when, well, let me talk about my time. If, say, I rocked up home with a brand new car, the first question I would ask is, where did you get this car? Not where did you get this car? You know why? They would know what I earn. They know where I work. And
they
they
know
would
for
have
how
done,
long you've
we've
worked.
And they've done the maths.
And they've compared. So and so has
It's
worked
not
for so long, and yet you only started working the other day.
How have you gotten this thing?
And you work in the same place. I mean, we know.
So explain how. And they will tell you, return this thing where you found it.
Yep.
Return it where you found it. No.
Yes,
Yeah.
or you just don't go home with it
You don't
because
go home with it.
you know very well. You'll take a matatu, go visit, and that is it. They will tell you, look, in fact, that man you've been sending us, stop sending.
We don't want to.
Because clearly, you're not. It is not from your salary, and wherever you're getting it, if you're a forthright parent, they tell you, I think you become a thief, my child.
Yeah.
Unless you could explain it and it's logical, they will tell you, we don't want it.
It's true, because they used to say, your mother doesn't have money, but the clothes that you're wearing wants to knock somebody down on the road.
Isn't that an interesting way of putting it?
And yet we know your mother. We
Yes.
know where you come from.
Yes.
But you're looking at you and, hey, how? How is it possible? This is one thing one way we can all contribute to ensuring that our community, our society gets back online is that we all live by what is right. This thing of somebody leaving your village and then they come back 2 months later, they're driving a very big car and they've dug a foundation. A house is up in 6 months' time. Huge house. And now you start calling them to churches, be the chairman of the next Harambe.
We glorify
What nonsense is that?
See, this is the thing I was going to at this point. It's like we start to think of it as something good. We're not asking the questions then
We
in
don't
terms
want-
of where did this person get the money from. It's an uncomfortable conversation to have. And I think we need to get to the point where it is the conversation to have. When you see something like that happening, the first question you ask is, what can I get? No. The first question you ask is, how
Where?
did this happen? And if there's no logical explanation to it, then we need to put you to task
you.
and say, no, you. No. We're
We
not
don't
going
wanna
to be
deal
able to
with you.
deal with that. But this is something that has to be a collective mind bargaining for everybody to be on that place, at that place where you're asking the question, saying, no, this actually cannot be.
It's not possible.
We're not going to accept it.
It's not possible. So you've been appointed, chairman of CDF, and we all know you're chairman of CDF. And the next thing, you're putting up a building. Put a direct correlation between what that person is doing and
Yes, and we also know what the CDF is supposed to be doing, and we know it's not being
and
done.
we know it's not being done.
So?
And here you are.
And here we are, you are still chairman of the Harambe committee in the church.
And you're still continuing.
In fact, he's the one now who's been called chairman of Harambe Committee. We've now made him chairman of the BOM of this school. We've made him everything. You'll be chairman.
You know why? We know you have money, okay? So we are we have determined to be completely blind and deaf to the realities of how you've acquired your money, and we are done to help you sanitize it.
Yeah.
So we participate in the things that we keep trying to condemn. And that's why it can't work. On the one hand, we applaud it, and we ourselves probably look for an opportunity to participate in the same. So what happens when we speak is that we're disappointed because we have not had the opportunity to do that.
Yet.
Yes. And if we did, we'd probably do the same thing.
In fact, we are looking for that opportunity.
Yes.
Actively looking for that
In
opportunity.
fact, when you're bad mouthing the person, you're hoping that they'll kick him out so that they'll put you in so that you can also have your turn to eat.
You're looking for an opportunity as well.
Yes.
It's quite sad, unfortunately.
Lest we forget, this is where we are as a country.
This is what is happening. COVID aside, if it's possible to do that for a minute and say these are the real issues. These are the present issues. Clear and present danger is another. These are the things that are happening right now, and that unfortunately will still be there when COVID is
Goes.
done with. And those are the things that must be dealt with if we're going to stop the hemorrhage, not even bleed, hemorrhage of things that are happening in this country.
And if we
in
don't
other
deal with
countries.
it, we will not even be able to recover fully from this COVID. Because COVID is giving us a very big hit. For us to recover out of this, we need the concerted effort of everybody. Put your money together. This thing of governors saying, you know what, we can't take a pay cut because, we have loans. It's still bugging my head. Who doesn't have loans? Why do we still pay so much? All right, so yeah, we have got 2 million. Is it 2 million or 2 million people who work for the government? Yes. If all of us are taking pay cuts from wherever, people are losing their jobs, people are losing their livelihoods, and yet we are the ones who are paying a tax to maintain people in public service. Everybody should contribute towards this, Kitty.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
Everybody should do that. And everybody should come out of it and say, you know what, together, concerted, this is what we shall do, and this is how we shall safeguard that this money does not go to waste. The money that is coming from the World Bank, now that everybody knows that there's money coming from the World Bank for this, let's have a very clear and open, transparent way of spending this money. One way of starting is demanding that. Where is this money? When you say 10 billion shillings will go in towards the dealing with COVID, where?
State it so that we can audit
Where?
it. Say, we're going to do this.
And don't
So
tell
that
us,
it's verifiable.
Don't tell us you'll spend 2 billion shillings to give us free hand sanitizers.
We don't want to hear that nonsense.
2 billion shillings, I don't know. No way. You're using a raw material that you have not bought.
It was there.
It was there. You grabbed from somebody. It was punishment. You took it. So you're not buying this raw material. How can it cost?
This amount.
So such kind of things. Beds, yes. So how much money are we putting into beds, into getting the free
ICU
masks,
centers, yeah.
into the ICU center? All these things. You can't tell us that we imported tents so we can put this thing in your stadium, and that cost
We
us
produce tents in this country.
4.5 billion
Crying out
shillings.
loud.
We manufacture them here, by the way.
Turkey Kuskia.
And you saw the variety that we've seen being put up in Nigeria. We manufacture them here.
Here.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an advanced. The advanced technology for that thing, we have them
We have
here.
it.
Prefabs, we have them here. There's
have
nothing we don't have.
Everything here. We can do everything here. City Mugas, we go to the top of the hour. Today's proverb.
Wisdom is like a baobab tree, and no one individual can embrace it.
Explain a bit for 30 seconds.
Wisdom belongs to everyone. There is
Nobody has a monopoly of wisdom.
no one has a monopoly, and you cannot say that only one individual or a group of people have a monopoly. They will have an understanding and a specific one in a certain specific area, but other people will have the same in their specific area. Now, when you combine this, is when you have the strength and the force that brings about the change we're talking about.
Indeed.
Yes.
Wisdom is like a baobab tree.
No one individual can embrace it.
No one individual can embrace this. It's coming to 9 o'clock. This is a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. I can see Victor calling in from Nakuru. Keep calling, Victor. We're going to pick your call after we take a look at traffic. In the next hour, we'll also be talking to Dr. Marcy Korir. Any questions that you have for Dr. Marcy, Spice FM KE on Facebook, at Spice FM KE on Twitter, at Dr. Marcy Korir. Post your questions there. We'll be calling her in and she'll be able to respond to that. Good morning. It's 9 o'clock.
you're looking in Nairobi, all over the place. No traffic today, as is expected, because of what we're seeing. Updates that there was a little bit of traffic right around Bunyala Road, but not so much anymore. Jogo Road had a bit of a hiccup there, but then getting to the City Stadium roundabout and into the CBD, you should be A-OK now and no problems whatsoever. We're absolutely fine as concerns traffic. We'll see what it looks like during later parts of the day, but for now, you're all right. Spice of MKE on Twitter, something we should know about. Don't hesitate to let us know.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist,
broadcasting from Nairobi, 94.4 in Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri, Malindi. Globally, www.spicefm.co.ke, SpiceFMKE on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. In the room is C.T. Muga, Eric Latif, Nduoko will be joining Dr. Marcy Korir. She'll call in shortly, and where she can respond to your questions. SpiceFMKE on Facebook and Twitter is the number, is the handle to post your question in. So, issues of coronavirus, issues of how we are dealing with this, issues of how the country has now gone into, how many days now of curfew? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Right? And this is continuing. Yesterday, the CS for Health, Mutahi Gagwe, told us that this next couple of days, the next 10 days, could mean a lot. The next 10 days, according to the kind of projections that have been done by experts in the Ministry of Health, we now have 50 cases in the country. The projections are showing that in the next 10 days, we could have 1,000 cases once we even roll out rapid testing of people. 5,000 cases by mid-April, 10,000 cases by the end of April. If you have 10,000 cases, and if you consider that all the 50 cases that we have so far have all been taken into hospital, everybody else will be expecting to go into hospital. This is one of the other things that we need to start managing, that when we start getting this number of cases, not everybody will be expected to go to hospital. So far, we have the 50, they've been taken to hospital. When you get to 1,000, don't expect that we'll be taking them to hospital. 5,000, 10,000 in a month, in 30 days?
No, I think just from this, if these projections, if we go the way of these projections, 10,000 people in the country, we don't have the capacity for it, even as, medical facilities. I think you're going to find, if that is the case, that a number of people will be at home self-medicating.
Yep.
And I mean, you just have to embrace the reality of that these things that people say, stock up on your paracetamol, etc., we're going to find a lot of people at home taking care of themselves in this case, and then maybe on the phone getting advice in terms of what you should do regarding what your symptoms are.
Yep.
Because we just don't have the space in hospitals to get this taken care of.
We can do telemedicine.
Even with 10,000 people.
Just call that number 719. And
this is what I'm saying. These are my symptoms. I'm at home. Whether you've tested positive or not.
Yep.
I mean, it sounds like something like we're oversimplifying it. But if we're just going to be practical, 10,000 people, we do not have the capacity for 10,000 people in hospital alongside all the other medical cases that are concurrently running. It's not possible to have it done now. So yes, I do see a situation, if it gets to that a number of people will be at home, self-medicating, staying at home, getting advice over the phone in terms of what kind of medication I need to buy,
can fight
or
it.
have that to be delivered to me, and I can fight it with a good diet
even if
and making sure I'm taking care of myself.
Even if you test positive, you can fight it. 95% of the people who've gotten it have not died, right? So we can fight it. Go to the phone lines. Victor, good morning.
Yes, morning, and how are you, later?
Salama kabisa. How is Nakuru?
Nakuru is good today. At least it's sunny and it's warm.
Good.
I like it warm because I hear when it's warm, at least we can deal with the corona.
That's what you hear.
No, I can't survive 27, 28 degrees. So anyway, now this morning, how are everybody? Sorry, and did say hi to all City and everybody else there.
Well, City and everybody are all well, thank you.
Right, yeah.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Eric.
So everybody's good. It's good.
All right. I'm surprised Doctor is not in today. You said you are reaching them on call?
Yes.
All right. There's something I would want to maybe comment and then maybe ask.
Yes.
So number one, the government is doing good. I mean, I like what they call the curfew. I like what they're trying to give us sanitizers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But now I have an observation to make. This morning I just had this talk about, yes, we have this alcohol that we are now trying to get from the police. And we are now trying to tell people that we'll give them and we'll use 3 billion, I don't know, 2 billion, which you do not totally agree and I'm in support.
No, we don't know the figures yet. We just
No.
We're just throwing that figure there.
That is not what even was spoken of by the chairman of the Kenya Pipeline Company.
Yeah.
What he was talking about was the estimated cost, what the value would be estimated. But even then he said they haven't finalized it, so he wasn't saying anything concrete.
No, it's true. I'm just hypothetically, you're looking at what you're trying to drive and what last people are trying to drive, meaning we are looking at and worried about corruption aspect.
Yes.
Now, I think we also need to address and maybe start discussing what is the impact of corruption on this corona. You know, at what level would corruption be now contributing highly to the spread as opposed to helping us?
Yep.
Because everybody is worried. All this money. The other day I had, the Senator Ole Kina talking about we've received 7 billion. I think Central Bank gave us about 6 billion or something like that. And he was asking, as a senator of this country, that where is this money going? So all that brings and zeroes in to the corruption aspect.
Yeah.
So it's good that we discuss corruption. I believe if we dealt with corruption fully and ruthlessly, we would be in a better position, not just now, but also in the future. But on the other side, last week my input was on lockdown. And as much as we're going to do that, I have a question I wanted Dr. to, if you get Dr. on call, ask. We are told that this corona survives on surfaces to a maximum of 9 days. And I think that is on plastic. I think it's 4 days on metal or shiny surface. I think it's 3 days on cloth. I don't know, blah, blah, blah. Why wouldn't we use that to cleanse our city or our country? Because if we totally shut down, then it means these things will go dry in 9 days. Then after that, in as much as we have the finance to do the fumigation and stuff, the 9 days will have helped clear in areas that we cannot hit.
Oh, I see. So just stay home within 9 days, the thing dies anyway.
Yes, within 9 days, our town will be clean. Unless they're cheating us, then that is another way of making sure that we have this thing dealt with.
Thank you.
Why is the world not dealing with it,
Thank you, Victor.
That's my input for today.
Asante
Enjoy
sana.
it.
Have a good day. All right. Okay, Chin Kisumu, good morning.
Yeah, good morning to you. How are you?
We're fine.
We are well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, I had a few thoughts. I think I should first begin by stating that I love my country.
Good.
Oh, I love Kenya so much, and my tenderest dreams, my greatest hopes are towards this country. And the views I hold, therefore, or the kind of discourses that we engage in, are all in the spirit of tomorrow. The question I ask myself is, what can this country possibly do to get better? And what is my contribution? So the things on which I opine and the nature of those very opinions surely contain a silver lining, which is hope. Now, having said that, somebody was telling me yesterday about the measures USA is taking in management of COVID-19. How, for example, Trump is hoping to fight the disease and win by someday in April. And how his country has allotted $2 trillion for fighting the menace. Now, I did some basic operations to clearly picture what this amount actually means in relation to Kenya. So if I divide it by 50 states and convert to our shillings, I notice that it is an equivalent of every state on average getting 4 trillion Kenyan shillings just for fighting corona. Now, in the assumption that we in Kenya are honestly able to raise this money, even in one full year, I will tell you that Kenya cannot employ the same measures that US is adopting in fighting corona, especially as they concern fiscal matters. That is why I say, let Kenyans get money. Let them go and work for money. But there are more reasons that would inform that kind of view, the thought of people working, which I think I had shared, yesterday.
You're very strong on this point, Okech. You're very, very strong on this point.
It is because, in the meantime, we in the informal sector are finding it very difficult. And yet, it may all prove to be of no purpose. You saw yesterday the ministry projecting an infection of up to 10,000. Now, you know that's a lie, don't you? That number will be bigger.
Well, you're saying the number will be more, with the projections, the number will be more than 10,000.
That factor you may multiply by 10 or 20.
Oh, okay.
I can tell you. Now, the second thing is about the committee that was set up. I will briefly say that the only thing which will give me hope is perhaps a simple clause, some moral statement of commitment to the effect that the members of this committee will operate with utmost dignity, with ever-prompted conscience and goodwill towards Kenyans. Because you see, without that, this will just be the brother of the BBI committee, not helping Kenyans at all, but taking the people's money. And I think going forward, probably our constitution should be made in such a way that we have a very elaborate preamble that speaks quite exhaustively about the spirit of good governance and the value system that we cherish as a people, or those ideals that constitute greatness, and that this preamble should not be subject to any amendment. So it will be that everything we do will be doing in the spirit of the Constitution, which is stable and strong and will never change. And so that all the other...
Okay, thank you very much for your views, and I think we ought to give you some more time so that we can discuss this.
Should I just take a brief one?
So we can hear this. Sorry, Okech, we have also on the line is the Cabinet Secretary for Tourism, Honorable Najib Balala. Good morning, Mheshimiwa.
Morning to you.
Thank you very much for joining us in the Situation Room. This is Eric Latif. We also have CT Muga and Nduoko.
Good morning.
Morning to you.
Morning, Mheshimiwa.
Morning.
Now, Mheshimiwa, we know that the COVID-19 is here. It's already having an impact, especially in the docket that you hold, tourism docket. A number of tourism actors have already been hard hit. Hotels are closing down. Others are sending their workers home on half pay or no pay on those kind of measures. What kind of overall, from where you see it, what kind of impact do we have so far? Have we seen so far on of COVID-19 on the tourism sector?
First of all, thank you very much for inviting me here. It's a news station, I'm told, and I'm excited that this is spicing the country's mentality in how do we discuss real issues and current affairs. But yes, I want to say also this coronavirus crisis, it's real. It's going to affect us if we are not careful. And for us in the tourism industry, we have made a decision that the first thing we will do is to support any initiative to contain the situation. Because without containing it, it will spread to all of us, it will affect us, there'll be no businesses tomorrow. We have been affected badly in the hotel industry, hospitality industry, because you could see all our facilities are shut down. We employ almost 500,000 people directly, and we generate $1.67 billion for the country. And if you include wildlife, we generate almost $2 billion revenue for the country.
Yeah.
So we are badly affected, and it will create more problems if we don't contain the virus and also see how best we can open up as fast as we can. But again, as I understand that this disease has not even been bad for Kenya.
Yeah.
And I want to say that the government did everything to contain it, and the action taken are the right actions. If I compare with the rest of Africa, we are very much ahead at Kenya. Yeah, we are even ahead than Egypt. And the good thing is that we are still in the single-digit number every day when they make the announcements.
Yeah.
That is good news. But the only thing is that I appeal is that the people must adhere to the measures that are put forward by the Ministry of Health. If we don't do that, we will have no businesses to open tomorrow. But in terms of the effect that the tourism had, it is actually the whole sector economy is shut down. The small window which is open is the food industry, which is for only takeaway.
Yes.
But all other facilities are shut down. And I can tell you, Eric, even if we open up in 2 months' time or in 3 months' time, the traveler behavior will change. The desire of destinations will change. Everything will change. This is a paradigm shift for all of us in the industry to reflect and to think, what can we do better so that we have tourism that is sustainable? And also, it is something that we must appreciate, that it will have an effect for a longer time, not just when this coronavirus in 3 months' time is over. Yeah, because our recovery is going to take at least 18 months. And let me give you the plan. The plan is that immediately there is stabilization, probably in July, August. People will work hard to try to get money and to save money for them to travel. Then the priority to travel will not be Africa or far destinations. The priority travel will be within, because until there is assurances that the health systems in far destinations are strong enough so that we don't have a repeat of the virus coming back again. So that is the worry we have in the far destinations or long-haul destinations like Africa. Yeah, but I can tell you, whatever we are doing in Kenya, we are much, much ahead of many countries in the world. The only thing I appeal again is that we must appreciate the measures put by the Ministry of Health. We must follow them up, and the issue of social distancing and the issue of masks are crucial for us to avoid this disease to go further.
Interesting, Mheshimiwa, that you've talked about a paradigm shift, especially in our local tourism sector. What ideas do you have so far for what is it that we can do? As you've said, the first quarter after recovery from this, the international traveler will not be looking for far destinations. But then we've got local travelers here in the country who may be looking for saving and doing local tourism. What can we do?
First of all, we have to think as Kenya for the domestic tourism. So we have to train our staff to make sure to appreciate the domestic market. So far, we are training staff only to appreciate the Mzungu market. That is one thing we have to do. We have to give products that are right for the domestic market. We have to give food and cuisine for the domestic market. Yeah, all those are paradigm shift is going to change. Yeah, but also we need to think in terms of out of Kenya, the region, and then Africa. It's a high time for me, and I represent the international community in the UN bodies. Yeah, this is the time for Africa to reflect and to develop inter-Africa tourism. But the only challenges we have is that we don't have infrastructure. We don't have, a regime that allow accessibility by fellow Africans in terms of visa, in terms of passport. Again, road network is not there. Train network is not. You look at Spain. Spain received 82 million visitors. From where? Majority of them are from the neighbors and from Europe. Yeah, and France the same thing, and the UK and the same thing. Here we are not taking Africa or intra-Africa. We have 1.2 billion people in Africa. If we just have 3 to 400 million people traveling within the continent. That is good enough for us. So far, Africa, we only have 62 million people traveling within into Africa. So you could see the number is too small. 62 million. Yeah, it's very low.
Yep.
Yeah. And how do we encourage intra-Africa? But it doesn't happen overnight. It has to have open sky policies so the flights can be affordable. In Europe, to travel from one point to another is about $50 to $100 euros. Yeah, to travel from one point to another. Here, if you want to go from one point to another, is minimum $1,000.
Wow.
So that is the problem. That's why we in Kenya here, we must have a paradigm shift. It's not going to be business as usual where people made super profits and taking advantage of this dream of Europeans coming out of Africa, and they want to do it once in a lifetime. You will have Kenyans, black people who want to travel. They will travel every day. You must bring the cost down. And that is the paradigm shift the tourism industry must understand.
Well, Shimura, it seems that it's something that's going to have to be collective mind change. People are going to have to come together across sector, whether it's private sector, whether it's government, across board. It's going to have to be collective. Do you think that the country is ready to do that, coming together to make this work?
They have no choice. They have no choice at all because there'll be no business. If they want to change, it is survival. It is not about choice. And yes, they have enjoyed all this and too much profit or an easy way of developing tourism. So the domestic market a secondary benefit for them.
Yeah.
So yes, it is a collective change. It's a mentality. It's everything you can name it. Is because people have not got used to it. But the minute we get used to it, then the international market will be a secondary benefit for this. And I've seen South Africa. South Africa, their primary benefit is domestic.
Yes, domestic.
That's why everything is affordable in South Africa. You can get a cheaper hotel, you can get a cheaper flight. Everything is affordable. Yeah? But when you come to other countries, the rest of the sub-Saharan Africa, everything is expensive because we are just waiting for the out of Africa Mzungu to come in. And this is where maybe it's time for us to learn. And it's time for us to change. We will have no choice but to change. Because there'll be no business to attract from Europe or from elsewhere.
Honorable Balala, when I hear you speak like this, I'm hearing words that have been said before by people who have held the same docket as you, and you've also held the same docket before. When you had travel advisories affecting our tourism market, same has been said, let's grow our domestic tourism market. Over the years, what is it that has made this not get to the full realization?
Actually, in the last 5 years, we did very well in domestic tourism. Domestic tourism, in terms of revenue, produced more than even the foreign tourism.
Good.
That is the good thing we have done. So we have experienced the value of domestic tourism. For example, Mombasa hotels survive only on the SGR and the domestic market. Yeah, Diani, 50% of their clients are domestic market.
Yeah.
So already there is already a taste of benefit from the domestic market. So people are aware. Now they are forced to continue with this. Then the rest of the country follows. And the rest of the country have no choice. They have to follow as well. Yeah. So even Masai Mara, where they think majority is foreigners, not anymore. Or otherwise, Masai Mara now is as good as closed because they dependent almost 90% on international
travel.
Yeah. If a flight from Nairobi to Masai Mara on a 12-seater plane is $300, who can afford domestically? Nobody can afford. Yeah, but that Mzungu who comes in once in a lifetime wants to do that trip, they will pay for that trip. But not Kenyans and not Africans. So we have and remember, Africans' choices for vacation is not safari. They will prefer beach, they will prefer other forms of entertainment and vacation, but not animals.
But probably, Mheshimiwa, because this hasn't been marketed to them. Because when we look at tourism all over the world, the images that we see is beach. That's what we see as a holiday. But if there was concerted effort to market all the other products that we have in the country, probably people would go. Probably people would want to go into Mount Kenya, into the other places, the other circuits around the country.
That's very true, because safari is a niche product.
Yeah.
The normal vacation for everybody in the world is the beach.
Yeah.
And being away from home. So that is, but again, to go on a safari because an expensive product is a niche for very, very few.
Yeah.
But now we need to make sure that it's affordable.
Right.
So we need then to promote it to the domestic market, and the domestic market will consume it, obviously. Yeah. But again, as I said, we need to make it affordable.
True.
And this will be very painful for all of us who think that we have enjoyed all this time, and as you said, we need a collective effort to do it. Yeah, but again, there are no choices now. In the next 2 years, I can assure you, we will have less international tourists. We will have to depend on the domestic market. We will have to depend on the African continent. And the African continent, the government needs to wake up now and start building infrastructure to have connectivity within the continent so that they can all benefit from the 1.2 billion people who are in this continent.
Mheshimiwa, you are the government, you know.
Yes, we have done our best. We in Kenya are well networked in terms of infrastructure. We are well networked in terms of airline, but one country cannot connect the continent.
That is very true.
Yeah, we have the airline hub in Nairobi. We have at least the railway going up to Naivasha, eventually to reach up to Kisumu, connect with East Africa. Already we have done quite a bit on regional tourism. From our biggest market is from Uganda and Tanzania and Rwanda. Yeah, already we have that network. So it's not just about these markets near us, but it has to be the whole continent together.
What I'm concerned about, Mheshimiwa, is with the situation, the economic downturn that we're now experiencing, you've talked about a period where we would likely need in order to recover. But what will that recovery look like?
Well, because this crisis is evolving every day.
Yes.
So our focus is not even on recovery yet. Yesterday, I had an international virtual call with people from Hawaii, from all over the world, and talking about what is the recovery plan from Africa. And we all agreed we cannot talk about recovery now. We have to talk about survival of humanity now. So it's not about even the tourism sector. It's about people surviving.
Right.
Luckily, in Africa, we are still at low numbers. Yeah. We are learning lessons from the other countries which have made mistakes, like Spain and Italy and the US. How do we make sure that we contain the situation? We don't allow those big numbers coming into Africa. Because then we are aware that the health institutions in Africa are very weak. But if we do the right things now, we will be able to overcome it earlier or faster than those other countries. But again, it's a collective responsibility. So we have decided yesterday that our position first is containment. Then recovery will come as we continue with, or we are watching what is evolving worldwide. Because as you saw yesterday, President Trump has pushed the social distancing policy up to end of May. Yeah? I can assure you it will move up to the end of June.
Yeah.
It will continue. So if we follow that way, then the recovery can only start, the campaigns can only start in the fall, which is now October, November, December.
Yeah. So as you talk about survival of human beings, there's also the issue of survival of businesses. Businesses in the tourism sector have been hard hit. The measures that were announced by the president last week, there are those that have said, yes, they're good, but for a business that is not operating like ours, like in the hotel sector, maybe it does not necessarily give us much legroom. What other measures have the hotels come to you and asked that you take to the president and your fellow members of cabinet?
Of course, we have a whole raft of proposals from the hotel industry. They want us to remove VAT on the accommodation cost. But even if we remove it today, there are no people to come to the rooms. They wanted pay as you earn, all these statutory taxes. to be deferred for the time being.
Yes.
And that is being discussed at a higher level. So there are some things that even the proposals are being made are not practical for now. It can be practical for the recovery to make the product cheaper.
Yes.
But for now, we need to save lives. How do we make sure that people have masks? How do we make sure people have food in their villages? Yeah. How do we make people stay at home and not spread the disease?
True.
That is fundamental, and that has nothing to do with the economy or has nothing to do with the tourism sector. It is all of us to be committed and say this is the way we should do it.
However, at the same time, I'd expect that people who work for the Ministry of Tourism and those that work for example, for the Kenya Tourism Board would be thinking and would be coming up with plans of what to do afterwards. So you're not just also caught flat-footed at the end of this. Are we having those kind of meetings and discussions?
Of course, we are not sleeping at home. We are not on holiday.
Yep.
We are working. We are developing. We are on Zoom conference twice a day with my officers myself.
Good.
Yeah. You have seen our video from Magical Kenya.
Yes.
About magic awaits you.
Yes. Very beautiful video, by the way. That was a very good video done by KTB.
So that is what we are working on. It will take some time. We are now in the situation room like yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that we are developing all these plans for now and for after.
Right. Mheshimiwa Najib Balala, CS for Tourism, we thank you very much for speaking to us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mheshimiwa. I hope we can talk with you soon in the near future to see how things are unfolding.
Definitely. Out of me.
Asante sana. Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, he's given us a raft of measures that they're working on, told us the reality. Reality is we are not going to have visitors coming, international visitors coming into this country for a while. So we've got to start thinking of how we can stimulate the local economy, stimulate so that people are able to save locally, domestically, and to be able to travel domestically. Now, remember, people are going to be hard hit. They don't have jobs yet. They don't have, they don't have jobs for now. So you're talking about urging them to save, urging them to start using these facilities. Like he said, a paradigm shift is what is required, even for the players in this sector. Indeed, that's what is required. 28 minutes to 10 o'clock. This is a Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We take a look at weather, traffic combined at the same time. Good morning.
Mostly cloudy in Nairobi for most parts of the day. Chance of rain in the afternoon. Highs of 25 as we look at things and how they may be changing. Taking a look then into Nyeri at 20 degrees, mostly cloudy. Thunderstorms expected later in the afternoon with highs of 24. In Nakuru at 20 degrees, it's mostly cloudy right now. Highs of 27 with some rain in the afternoon. At 19 degrees, Eldoret will be partly cloudy through most of the day. Highs of 26 and lows of 13. It's mostly cloudy in Kisumu at 23 degrees. Highs of 30 and lows of 19. 31 degrees in Malindi and rainy in the afternoon. Highs of 33 and lows of 28. Mombasa will be partly cloudy for most parts of the day, giving way to rain later and highs of 32 and lows of 27. In East Africa, Kampala is 24 degrees this morning and partly cloudy. Chance of rain very high, highs of 27 and lows of 21. Dar es Salaam is at 30 degrees and mostly sunny this morning, giving way to thunderstorms in the afternoon and highs of 32 and lows of 25. In Johannesburg, it's 17 degrees and partly cloudy. Cloudy conditions to prevail throughout most of the afternoon, then with highs of 22 and lows of 14. And finally, in Lagos, at 27 degrees, it's partly cloudy through the day. Highs of 34 and lows of 26. All right. Nothing major happening on the roads now. Matatu still charging exorbitant fares, unfortunately. Some parts triple what you would normally pay. Unfortunately, Matatu Association being asked to do something about this. I don't know if that's going to work. But then we have a lot more people working or walking in this case. Please be very careful, guys, because remember that you should take off so that you're home by 7. Looking at other parts, where might we see an issue? Nothing much, really. We had some issues around certain pockets, but that seems to be cleared out now. 'Tis the time, 'tis the hour. Anything out of the ordinary, do let us know. But for now, I think you should be just fine. Spice FMKE is how you can reach us on Twitter. But for now, everything looks really good.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done
23
right.
minutes to 10 o'clock.
94.
This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. My name is Eric Latif. We have CT Muga, Nduoko, and Dr. Mercy Korir is joining us now on the line. Good morning, Dr. Ari.
Good morning, Eric, Ndu, and City.
Good morning,
Morning,
Dr.
Mercy.
Mercy.
How are you doing?
We are fine.
We are well.
We are well.
Yes.
And yourself?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good,
Good
good.
stuff.
Yes.
Dr. Ari, we've hit 50.
Yes. Yeah.
Dr. Amoth, the Director General of Health, says their projections are looking at 1,000 by beginning of April, 5,000 mid-April, 10,000 end of April. That sounds scary. From 50 to 10,000 in 30 days.
Yes. Okay. So there is certain modeling that is done to make those projections. So I think that is on our part of our worst case scenario,
Yep.
where if we do not implement or initiate certain drastic measures. That's why you see the restrictions on movement, the curfew, social distancing, cleanliness, and whatnot. So the projections of the 1,000 is if these measures are not put in place and are not adhered to. So we expect that if we do everything as has been requested by WHO and the Ministry of Health, then our numbers may not hit that high. But then, as I've been saying, the numbers increasing should not worry us as much, as long as the numbers are increasing gradually. Because as you can see, we've been increasing either 4, 3, 7, 8. That's a number that our system can handle, because as more people come into the tally, others are getting well, are ready for discharge. So it means we are able to handle it when it's like that. The worry is if one day we are at 50 and the next minute we are like at 150, for example, then it means the extent of the community transmission is high and we did not pick it early. So that's when the problem will be. But as it is now, I wouldn't worry so much. I would just up a notch higher these other drastic measures. Probably even go the Ugandan way and make sure that you have restricted everything. But now with that, the government has to make sure that contact tracing and testing is rigorous and very aggressive.
Right.
So that you don't lock down people for nothing. Because there has to be something at the end of it. Even if it's 3 days, and within those 3 days you've traced and tracked everyone and tested all of them, then it means you have an idea of what's happening.
Is it possible for that to happen, Dr. Is it possible for that to happen, that contact tracing and tracking and all of this and getting them tested can happen, I mean, with the 3-day suggestion that you have?
Okay, maybe not 3 days, but let's say a week. I think it's something that's very possible, because if you look at it, and the city has been talking about this, we have community health workers, community health volunteers across the country. AMREF has been saying they have 60,000 of them in their network. If you engage all of those people, they'll be able to trace and track everyone where they are, whoever it is that is on the contact list, and their contacts that come after they have been found. So I think it's just a matter of taking something seriously and being able to trace and contact all of those people. Now, in terms of testing, we have capacity. The Cambridge laboratories, for example, they have the PCR machines that can do 2,000 tests in 24 hours. That is in Nairobi, Kilifi, Busia, Kericho, and which is the other one I haven't mentioned. Kericho, Nairobi, Kilifi, Busia, Kisumu.
Kajiado.
The 5.
Okay.
The Cambridge labs.
All right.
Yes. So those are 10,000 tests in 24 hours. Really, that's something that I think we can do, but it just needs people to be a little bit more aggressive in contact tracing, retrieving samples, and actually doing the tests that are necessary. Yeah, so that we have an idea of the extent of the virus, because as you heard the CSS, now we are seeing community transmission, because now we don't have any more people coming in. So what we are seeing now is community transmission, and we expect that this will still increase even as the week progresses. Yeah.
Dr. Mercy, I want to ask a question here. Let me make a statement. There is people testing positive, all right? You are put in isolation, am I right?
Isolation, yes.
There are people in critical care.
Sorry?
Then there are people who are in who are in need of critical care.
Yes.
Out of the numbers of people who have tested positive, how many would we say have been in need of critical care as we speak?
Last I checked, there have been 3 who were in critical care. And you're aware we lost 1, so we should have 3 more in critical care. Everyone else is actually otherwise stable. Some are asymptomatic now. Also, their symptoms have gotten better. Some have mild symptoms. So as it is now, the picture is good. And actually, this is one of the things that we thought the Ministry of Health should be telling Wananchi, that we have so many people, so many are in critical condition, and so that we know the status. Because now when we say we have 50 now, without actually qualifying that statement, sends a bit of panic and worry in Wananchi. And then the other thing is to know these people who are in critical condition, for example, are they otherwise healthy, or do they have other pre-existing conditions as we have seen in other countries? Because then that may be able to help us understand what is happening.
Indeed. Dr. Mercy, let's take a short break and then we continue with that. We come back now with the questions that we received from our social media platforms, Spice FM KE on Facebook, Spice FM KE on Twitter. And also, if you have a question to ask Dr. Mercy, 0719-012-600. It's now 9:45. Good morning. This is the Situation Room.
Spice FM, Nakuru. The 80s have never sounded so good.
My favorite songs of the 1980s.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Joining us on the line, Dr. There are many questions that are coming in. What do you have? Burning stuff.
All right, let's start from the top of it. Okay, Dr. Is there something that you can sniff or
94.4
so that you prevent droplets from the nose or mouth from having the virus if you're infected?
Just come again, I didn't get to that.
Okay. Is there something that you can sniff or chew so that you prevent your droplets from the nose or mouth from having the virus if infected?
Okay. I don't think so. I haven't come across anything like that.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to know where that thinking came from or what was behind that. because I haven't come across it. Because you see, if the droplets are already in your respiratory system, they would be in the droplets because the body is trying to get rid of them.
Yeah.
Through its usual mechanism. So I don't know if there's anything that can kill them, unless somebody is probably thinking of mouthwash to gargle or things like that.
Yeah.
I'm not certain, but I've not come across anything that can really stop the droplets from being within the system. And this is why the recommendation is for anyone that is sick, they can use a mask. So that they limit the spread of the droplets from their system to surfaces or to anyone who might be taking care of them.
Okay. You talked about a mask, which is our next question. And so everybody seems to be wanting to get a mask. Should we wear a mask even if an individual is not infected?
Okay, the recommendation from WHO, and this is obviously after looking at various data across the world, is that masks should be limited to the person who is sick, the person who is taking care of somebody who is sick, so that they can minimize their transmission, and for healthcare workers. Anyone who is otherwise healthy does not need a mask. And I think this one has come up quite. I think I don't know if we can classify it as a controversial topic. But it has come up a lot. I've seen social media videos from countries that say everyone who wore a mask, so the country did not get as much viral infection as possible. I don't know. So at this point where there's many sources of information, I think the best is just to rely with the one source that has been trusted for years, and that's to go with WHO. If they change based on people from countries or what they're seeing, then it will change accordingly. But for now, only those who are sick, the person taking care of the sick, or now for healthcare workers or people working in a hospital facility are the people who will need the mask, because those are the people at highest risk of contracting the virus.
Sticking with the masks, we are seeing now on social media, enterprising Kenyans are making masks from various pieces of cloth.
Vitenge.
And vitenge, very beautiful looking masks actually. It's a fashion, it's a fashion item. What do you say of that?
Okay, you see, the mask can prevent particles of certain sizes from getting into the respiratory system. And I think I've seen another pictorial of the different kind of masks and what they can prevent. So the N95 mask, which is labeled as one of the best masks, can only protect you up to 95%. So the cloth mask will, I think, will just be like give you psychological comfort, but then not prevent some of these particles of the viruses or bacteria from accessing your system.
Right.
So for me, they are, unless in a situation where somebody is really sick and you have nothing else, then that's the point to use. But for now, I don't think we've reached a point where we have to use anything and everything.
But at that point, is it okay for me to buy that kitenge mask?
It will prevent obvious, like if somebody, if you're taking care of somebody who's sick, for example, it will prevent the obvious droplets or the obvious substances from getting access to your mouth. But when it comes to the tiny particles of the virus, they'll get access.
All right, coming in quick, still.
More psychological.
Okay, I know we've talked about this other one before, Dr. but it's still important because asking that once infected and then cured. Can I do 2 questions at a time? Is that okay?
That's fine.
So the first one is, if you've been infected by corona and recovered, is it true that your body then becomes immune and the virus can't get to you again? That's the first side of it. The other side of it is that if I do get infected with what we see going on in the country, can I actually stay home and manage my symptoms until I get well?
Oh, let me start with the last one. People with there are several categories of people. There are those who will have very mild symptoms or moderate symptoms. As long as they do not have any other pre-existing condition, either chronic lung disease like asthma, diabetes, hypertension, HIV, or cancer, they can manage at home. And we've seen stories from the global north, people giving their own experiences that they've gone through. They've actually been able to manage. I've even seen some who are otherwise really bad. Didn't go to hospital, but they managed. And after a week, 2 weeks, they were up and about again. They'd gone through the worst of the virus. So as long as somebody does not have any other illness, they can actually manage. So the only warning is that from the experiences of those other people, they say it's really bad. Like it puts you down really badly. It's not a flu, like where you feel a flu. It's like what somebody says, it's like 10 times of a flu.
Before you answer there's that second question, Dr. There is Musa who's also calling. He's on the line, calling in from Nakuru. Let's check his question. Musa, good morning.
Good morning.
Ask the doctor your question.
Yes. Okay. I have one or two questions to ask. Yeah. One. I heard the doctor talking about the issue of who is to wear the mask. And of course, we heard about the WHO recommendation that is the caregiver and the one who is infected can actually wear them. Secondly, we are looking at the TVs, of course, every time now. And we saw what happens at the epicenter, that is the one. When you look at the streets, everybody is wearing them. And then secondly, you tell us that you can't wear them, while by the time somebody is passing it, there are no symptoms in some of them or most. So they still get to cough or maybe something like that, and then these guys would get infected. So I thought, what is so wrong with preventing the droplets getting into the system? Yeah, that's one thing I thought.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the second question, yeah?
Go ahead, second question.
Yeah, the second thing I read again from the expert is the droplets, when they are lighter, they can linger in the air. And I don't know whether Dr. will tell us, because I think I read an article this morning. So they can linger in the air even for an hour in ideal situations where there is no wind and so on, because they say it's a micron smaller than the hair. So it can linger in the air and will still remain up there maybe for an hour or something like that. So I guess there are lots of things to learn from this new COVID thing.
What you're talking about seems to be suggesting that it's airborne, isn't it?
Yeah, they say in ideal situations it can linger in the air.
Whether it's airborne or not is actually a subject of scientific discussion even now. And they still haven't determined whether you can actually contact it as you would any other airborne disease. It's as you said, it's something that the scientific community has debated about, and they're still debating about it.
Yes, and I appreciate that.
In fact, City, I'm glad you mentioned that ideal situation. This was lab testing to see if it can be airborne. So it was under certain circumstances in the lab. Now, the conditions that are done in the lab are very different from real-life situations. And in real-life situations, it has not been seen to be airborne. And WHO actually clarified this. Now, the situations in which it is airborne is under certain medical conditions where they get what is called aerosolized. And I think the best example is when somebody is getting nebulized. Let's say they're having an asthmatic attack or something, then they have to put oxygen and the dawa so that they get nebulized so that they can relieve their symptoms. In such a situation, then those particles sort of get airborne, quote unquote, in that circumstance. But now remember, this is a hospital setting, and they have been triggered.
Okay.
They have been triggered to be aerosolized because you are performing a certain medical procedure, and then there are many. And in such a situation, that person who will be doing that procedure will be adequately protected. So in our kawaida day-to-day movement,
not yet proven.
It is not airborne. It is not airborne.
Take the other two questions, Dr. Ari.
Yes. So the other one was he was asking about I'll count on immunity on somebody who is asymptomatic spreading.
Yeah.
So remember that for these particles to spread, they have to be coughed out or sneezed out. So if somebody does not have any of those symptoms, then they are unlikely to release those droplets to surfaces or to transmit from person to person. So that's why the first reports from Wuhan and even here is that somebody who is asymptomatic or does not have any symptoms is unlikely to transmit the infection. And in medicine, we never say never. So that's why you say unlikely, highly unlikely that they'll transmit. So somebody has to be actively symptomatic. And I see now people are on high alert. Anyone who coughs, anyone who sneezes, and everyone is alert, they're expected to observe cough etiquette.
And the final question,
all of us, small part, yes, was on the mask. Allow me to just cover the one on the mask. Wuhan, Italy, and some of these countries of global north have a high air pollution, and the residents there use masks. So in Kenya here, it is not in our DNA or it's not in our day-to-day activity to wear masks. So that's why you still find in China and those countries, whether there is an outbreak or not, they're still wearing masks. So I still say we reserve masks for those people who absolutely need it, and we said it. Now, whether one develops immunity or not after this SARS-CoV-2 COVID is still being looked at. As it is now, there is no evidence to say that those people who have gotten COVID cannot get reinfected again. So this is still work in progress.
Asante sana. Dr. Mercy Korir, we thank you very much for speaking to us today. We'll, of course, be taking more questions throughout the day, and then you can respond to them tomorrow. So we have a lot more time for you to respond to these questions tomorrow.
I'll be happy to.
Thanks, Dr. Ari. A lot for that people want to know, so for sure it would be great to have that.
Okay.
Have a good one, Dr. Ari.
You too, guys. Have a good one.
Cheers.
Bye, Mercy.
So, as we come to the end of the show, C.T. Muga.
Yes. Wisdom is like a baobab tree. No one individual can embrace it. Now, many people may not even know what a baobab tree looks like because it's not indigenous to many parts of the country except around the coastal region. But it has a very broad trunk that even if you stretch your imagination fully, you will not see how you would be able to embrace it on your own. Wisdom belongs to everyone. And there are certain situations where if people do not band together to find a solution, to act on a solution, nothing gets done. What it actually means is you, in addition to just thinking about it, you have to actively get rid of your biases. You have to get rid of hindrances, blockages that you've had in your mind, certain negative tribal inclination, certain positive tribal inclinations, certain perspectives that are gender negative and are completely unhelpful.
You get it.
You get it.
Yeah.
See you tomorrow, CT.
See you tomorrow, Eric.
Right. And the conversation continues.
The conversation must continue.
And you, Ndu?
Ciao. See you tomorrow.
Ciao.
Yeah.
All right. So tell us, what time is the next show?
10 o'clock.
Join us tomorrow, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Between now and 2 o'clock, you'll have uninterrupted music. Then 2 to 7, Monique will be here with Spice Drive. See you tomorrow. Good morning.